Councilmember Beta?
Here.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Here.
Councilmember Peralta?
Here.
Councilmember Silva?
Here. We do have a quorum. Do we have entertain a motion to approve the agenda? There's 2 items on the agenda.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we'll go to item 4A. Council will adjourn to executive session to discuss pending litigation with Taos County pursuant to NMSA 1978-1015-1H7. Entertain a motion to go into executive session at this time.
So moved, Mr. Mayor. Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. We will go into executive session at this time. Good evening, everyone. We're back from executive session. We had an executive session that started about 6:07 to discuss pending litigation with Taos County. And now we go to item B. Just for the record, the discussion was limited to that was described in item A. And at this time, I'll ask the town attorney for a recommendation.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. The recommendation from the town attorney's office is that relative to the Sequia Madre del Prado del Rio Lucero versus Town of Taos and Board of County Commissioners of the County of Taos versus Town of Taos, that the town pursue 3 courses of action. One is filing in the New Mexico Supreme Court a petition for an extraordinary writ, to file in the New Mexico Court of Appeals a notice of appeal to be filed on or before February 6th as a placeholder pending the outcome of the Supreme Court interaction. And the third step would be to continue to work with the New Mexico Municipal League to coordinate with that organization the filing of a amicus brief in support of the town's position regarding this appeal. And that's the recommendation.
Okay. It's the pleasure of the council.
So moved.
So motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment of our special meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we will go to convening on our regular agenda. Welcome, everyone. Today is January 28th. It's approximately 6:30 in the evening. Clerk, can we have roll call, please?
Mayor Cordova?
Here.
Councilmember Beta? Here. Councilmember Gonzalez?
Here.
Councilmember Peralta?
Here.
Councilmember Silva?
Here.
Youth Councilmember Landgraf?
Here.
We do have a quorum. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, everyone. Councilmember Peralta.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Next, we will go to approval of the agenda. We do have a lengthy agenda, but is there any changes or concerns to that agenda? Just for the record, I want to let everyone know that our town manager had 2 deaths in the family and could not be here tonight. So we express our condolences to him and his family. Sitting in for Oscar Rodriguez is our assistant manager, Abigail Adame. So we'll go to item number 5. Entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes of January 7th, 2014.
Agenda first, Mr. Mayor. I move approve of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda. I'm sorry. Thank you, Councilmember Peralta. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we'll go to the meeting minutes of January 7th, 2014. Any questions, concerns to those meeting minutes as presented?
I have none, Mr. Mayor.
None, Mr. Mayor.
I have none, Mr. Mayor.
None, Mr. Mayor. Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we will go to the meeting minutes of January 8th, 2014, special meeting minutes. Any questions to those meeting minutes?
I have none, Mr. Mayor. Move for approval.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we'll go to item 6, the Citizens Forum. I don't have a sign-up sheet, but I will just call individuals from the audience. At this time, Mr. Northrop, welcome to our meeting, sir.
Thank you.
So you have your badges on.
Well, I took the Texas Ranger one off. I'm on administrative leave. The town election campaign, early as it is, has been very ugly, primarily driven by a local DMC radio DJ. The listenership is only about 100 people, but this is still enough to cause a great deal of controversy, as their declarations are so often false, but still inflammatory. I asked the mayor to take this woman off the air until at least March 5th, the day after the election. Last Saturday, a woman who lives along Cruz Alta had a verbal altercation with 2 young men who were trying to tear a Baroni for Mayor sign from the cyclone fence in front of her home. At least one of the 2 men had stolen picket signs from me last summer. The 2 men are the twin sons of one who sits in...
Mr. Northrop, I'm not going to let you hear and literally lie and defame anyone's character, including my kids. So if you know the rules of this, you know the rules. This is a citizens forum, but it's not your forum to blatantly attack someone's character or slander as you know how.
Well, unfortunately...
I'm not going to argue with you.
Unfortunately, what I'm saying is true. So that's not really considered slander. Truth is a very good defense against slander.
If you have proof of that, then I would encourage you to report it to the authorities.
Well, I've had many signs stolen and reported to the authorities, and they make
Mr.
they
Northrop,
won't even write a police
I'm
report.
not going to argue with you. If you need to continue, if not, I'll go to the next speaker.
Well, all right. Well, as far as I know, the only one that's allowed to steal signs in the town of Taos is Amos Khan.
Mr. Northrop, we're going to go to the next speaker at this time. You're not going to slander anyone's name unless you have proof of anything that is going on. Okay, next, we'll go to the next speaker at this time. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Ma'am? Welcome to our meeting.
Hello. I'm Kim Hamstra, CEO of Tri-County Community Services, and I had spoken with Mr. Rodriguez, and he asked that I come today and just present some challenges that Tri-County Community Services is having, since we serve a lot of the mental health and substance abuse issues for the town of Taos and the community. We've had some financial issues getting paid timely by the Medicaid payer in Santa Fe. And then we have the new 4 Medicaid companies that began at January 1. And at this time, we have received no payment since January 1 for over $140,000 worth of work. So we're working real closely with BHSD and the new Medicaid companies, and we did finally get approval to get some payment on old claims. But what did happen is we did not make payroll, so 50 community members in this town did not receive their pay on time. They will be paid this week. So I am presenting letters at the legislature asking for consideration and for all of the elected officials to look at and value behavioral health services. There's a lot of positives that come out of treatment, and it can save communities. And I think it's time for all of us to stand up and say that it does matter, and it's not always about money, it's about our voices. And I do need to say that I have over 78 staff, and although they did not get their paychecks on time, their commitment is the first thing. They grumbled for about 3 minutes, and then the biggest concern is what are we going to do with our communities and the people we help. And I just think that the council just needs to understand how dedicated the people that work at Tri-County and the service they provide, and all the other mental health and substance abuse providers in Taos that give a lot and sometimes get a little. So I did bring a proposal for a proclamation just to support the mental health that Tri-County does provide for the town in the 3 counties in northern New Mexico, so that we can take this and present this to Behavioral Health Day, which is this Friday.
Okay. Thank you, and I will be at the legislature this week. Would you like me to present this at the legislature? Okay. If I can, I'll just refer this to staff so that we can create a proclamation, and I will try to be there. Okay, thank you. And thank you for all the wonderful things the organization does for our community. Thank you. Okay, anyone else like to speak under the Citizens Forum? Welcome to our meeting.
Mayor and council members, thank you. My name's Judy Hofer.
Judy.
I'm the director of the Adult Learning Center at UNM-Taos, and Greg Gorham, who's a former student and teacher now. So we have a PowerPoint, and I'm wondering how to make that happen. So the reason, let me say a couple things. First of all, I want to acknowledge this huge
Judy, I know you're on item A, but we're still under the Citizens Forum.
That is the Citizens Forum.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
No, it's okay.
since we specifically allotted more time for you,
Okay.
let me get through the Citizens Forum. That way we can focus
I'm
on.
so sorry.
No, it's okay, Judy.
Yeah, because we're gonna give you additional time. So I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
It's under the Citizens Forum.
It's under that, but it's under a special presentation. So let me just go under the Citizens Forum, and then I'll get to that. Okay, thank you. Under the Citizens Forum, sir, welcome to our meeting.
Me llamo Arsenio Córdova del Prado y la acción que tomaron esta noche en contra de los ciudadanos del Prado es una cosa que no podemos nosotros tolerar como ciudadanos del Prado. I want to know if what kind of this litigation is going to cost the citizens of Taos. To go to an appeal, to go to the Supreme Court, and to go to the Municipal League for an amicus brief. I would like any of you to try to answer that. Did you hire an appellate lawyer already, or and how much is it going to cost? Something that could have been discussed and been amicably addressed by the citizens of our communities. And I know that it's a unanimous vote. On your part, that has repercussions to all our families and to all the citizens of El Prado and north to the airport. So, is there an answer as to an anticipated cost in this budget? I know that the last couple of weeks we've found that we're pretty rich in town. All the reports that are coming in, we're making all kinds of money. So, I just wonder how much of that money could be used for our roads and other things, and instead of for litigation that could be amicably addressed. Do we have an idea, Mr. Mayor, how much?
Mr. Cordova, I'd be happy to, if you want to do a request, I'd be happy to get that information, the totals. Right now, it's within our confines of our existing legal budget. But we will have to get a projection on that, and I'd be happy to share that with you. But keep in mind that we didn't instigate this litigation; the county sued the town.
Yes, the county offered some way to address the situation, and I was here at that meeting where that offer came, but it wasn't accepted by you because you didn't trust the county. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If staff wants to reach out, I have the contact information to Mr. Cordova so we can get that information to him. Okay. Next, under the Citizens Forum. Ma'am? Welcome to our meeting. The cheer team.
The cheer team, of course. But I, as the Taos Middle School coach for these cheerleaders, is here to personally thank you for your support, for what you've given them. You gave them the 4 hours of airtime and raising money and supporting them, and it was for their new uniforms, and this is what they got. So we wanted to come, of course, show you.
This is awesome. That's awesome. Thank you all for, my daughter used to be a cheerleader, and I remember I used to kind of fight with the schools because it seemed like many times the boys get the priority on the budget, and they forget about the girls, and what would sports be without the just the enthusiasm that the cheerleader provide to the boys. So thank you, and I recognize my niece there. So cool to see all of you there, and seeing all of you grow up to young women and productive young women. So thank you. It was an honor for me to help, and just know that this council also supports our youth in any way we can. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. You guys want to come up here? See, two nieces.
You like them? Yep. Congratulations.
Can I take a picture with you? Just want to let everyone know that my radio station, because they needed to raise funds for their uniforms, we were able to raise about, how much was it that we raised? Just $2,100 in 4 hours. So if you could stand up here.
Go, Maya. Come on, Coach, just get in there.
Scoot in towards the mayor a little bit. Now look over here, please. Look over here and file. Thank you.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you, ladies, and thank you to the coaches. Thank you to the coaches that do so much for them as well. All right, that was great. I was wondering what all the cheerleaders were doing here. Okay, next, under the Citizens Forum, is there anyone else under the Citizens Forum? Sir, Mr. Manzanares, welcome to our meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. As you may recall, I am also now part of the governmental liaison from the Taos Chamber of Commerce, and I appear here this evening to again invite all of you to participate in the upcoming candidates and mayoral forums, which the Chamber and the Taos News are jointly sponsoring. And for the people that are here, I'm glad to see such a great turnout, because on this Thursday, day after tomorrow, the 30th, we'll have a Meet the Candidates from 5 to 5:30, with the forum beginning at 5:30 p.m. at the Kit Carson Boardroom. And looking forward to having all of the candidates as well as incumbents who would like to attend that forum as well. Then the mayoral candidates will be on Wednesday, February 5th, same time frame, Meet the Candidates between 5 and 5:30, with the forum beginning at 5:30, again at Kit Carson Boardroom. There will be one additional forum that we're trying to schedule. We don't have the date or time yet, but we will be publishing that shortly. And so we wish all the candidates good luck, and looking forward to seeing you day after tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis.
Next, under the Citizens Forum? Anyone else under the Citizens Forum? Okay, thank you. I just want to make a comment really quick. It's tough when you're in the campaign season that you start hearing, and you have hearing so many things, and you have to grow thick skin. But just got a text here from one of my family members that my twins weren't even here, reminding me my twins weren't here. So, Mr. Northup, it's one of your many lies that you like to paint out there. So, for those individuals that are saying that my twins were here stealing signs, make sure you let them know that they were in Albuquerque. Okay. Okay, Judy, welcome.
Thank you for having
Thank
me
you.
again.
Welcome.
Welcome back.
So, we are with the Adult Learning Center, and first I just want to acknowledge how many people we have here with us today who are supporters of the Adult Learning Center at UNM-Taos. If you would please stand up.
Okay.
We have amazing group of students, loved ones, teachers, staff, and board members who are here with us this evening. We thought maybe we'd have 10, and I think we have like 35 people here tonight. And really what that says is just how important the Adult Learning Center is to our community. So if I could, we're going to do a quick PowerPoint. Our main reason for being here is to give you a little overview about what we do, because I don't think we're well understood, and to talk about some of our achievements. And then really it's to ask the town for its support again. So if I just jumpstart the presentation, the town has been a long-standing supporter of adult education and adult literacy. I have been the director close to 10 years now, and well before my time, the town was supporting adult education in the library through a volunteer community-based program. So we are here now to ask for the town to support us yet again, and I'll explain that in the PowerPoint. But mainly it's because the bar for the GED exam, the high school equivalency test, has increased so dramatically while our funding has not, that our needs are far greater than ever. So with that said, let's do a little overview about who we are. Is this microphone, it's working okay? Okay. So I am not the most technological, there we go. Okay, so quickly about what we do. We provide GED preparation in both English and Spanish. Quite a few people here this evening are Spanish speakers. We also provide English as a second language classes, adult literacy, health literacy initiatives. We work with a hospital. We have a tobacco prevention grant. And then workforce development, as I hope that many of you know, we actually, for example, have been contracted by the town now to provide a series of workshops for town employees on business writing skills. We've also been contracted by Holy Cross Hospital and a local restaurant. So basically, all our services are free, but parenthetically, I put unless we're contracted for a very targeted, specific service. Oops, wrong way. Why? Oh, sorry. Oh, is somebody here better than me at this? Ruben, thank you. Great, thank you. Let's look at last year. We served 216 students. 58% of them had below a 6th grade level. These are people that are 16 years of age or older. 29% are between the ages of 16 to 18, 21% between 19 and 24, and then 34% between 25 and 45. I mean, what's significant there is many people think that 16-year-olds are the ones that are leaving high school and coming to our program, but actually, if you look at the profile, more are over the age of 18 than not. We also serve students in drug court and the Juvenile Adult Detention Center, CAV, so really those most in need. Our performance, just quickly, we were recognized as the Program of the Year in 2011. This next point, I think, is very significant. Last year, 2012-2013, 61 students passed the GED exam, and they earned a high school diploma. So as you may know, in the state of New Mexico, you don't really get a GED. You pass your GED, and you're issued a high school diploma. So if we counted our 61 graduates with all the graduates in the Taos community, we graduated 27% of high school graduates. So more than a quarter of folks graduating from high school gain that achievement through our program. And then we have close to 80% of students who advance in the course of a year between 1 to 3 grade levels. Okay, our budget. We're under UNM-Taos. For some people, that connotes that we're really financially stable and we get UNM-Taos funding. UNM-Taos is significant to us. It provides us with space. We literally are right across the street at the UNM Administration Building. However, UNM-Taos does not fund us. So 60% of our funding comes from federal and state dollars, and 40% comes from either the town or grants that we write, the community foundation. We have done bake sales to raise money. Each year, it's increasingly difficult to maintain our budget since federal and state dollars for adult education are not increasing. And and then really the main part of the presentation is that the GED 2014 exam is requiring us to provide students with yet more instruction and more support. So I just want to say that our budget is less than $250,000 a year. That means federal and state dollars is less than $500 per student per year. So we do a lot with very, very little. So the exam's hard. That's all I can say. The exam, our teachers took the exam and we're like, oh my goodness, this is hard. So it's 100% online. It is set to the college and career readiness standards. So it's a very smart test. It has advanced critical thinking skills, Algebra 2, comparing scientific documents. It's a rigorous exam, and it's designed so that when you get a high school diploma, you do not have to take remedial and developmental classes when you go to college. You really are solid college material. So the bar is really much higher. And the cost of the exam has gone up from $70 for the full battery to $120. Okay, so here we are. We're asking for your support. Our priority need is we need to fund an extra teacher's salary. So to provide GED students with 10 additional hours of instruction per week for 42 weeks, the cost for that teacher's salary is $16,800 per year. Our secondary need is really direct student support. We want to provide our students with scholarships and instructional materials. The short version of what's up there is scholarships cost about $4,800 a year, and student practice test materials we're looking for about $2,400 a year. So that's an additional $7,200. So we are looking to raise $24,000 for this upcoming 14-15 year. And I just want to say, you know, students directly benefit, and then their children directly benefit, but really there's all kinds of research that for just about everything that you value, education and the education of the parents makes a difference. So educated adults are healthier, less likely to need public assistance, less likely to be incarcerated, much more able to ensure that their children are literate. You know, we want literate children. The literacy level of the parent is the #1 indicator for how literate the child will be. And we want community members who are employed and contribute to the tax base, and increasingly we are doing much more workforce development. So adult education, without a doubt, changes lives. This photo here is of excuse me, our past student of the year, who was not able to be here, but Greg Gorham a year before was our student of the year. And if we may, I would love for Greg to just say a few words as a student about our program.
My name is Greg Gorham. I had attended it was originally the Literacy Center when I attended classes through this GED program. And through that program, I was able to attain my GED. And now I'm actually working with these wonderful people, teaching classes to more students and more people who need this type of help. New Mexico also offers a lottery scholarship to anyone who attains their GED, regardless of age. So that has also allowed me to further my education and go to UNM. And so from my standpoint, it really has changed my life. It took me from, working, week to week in a 40-hour job that really was not enjoyable, and I could not progress in that job. And for my students that I've seen progress, we have a wide variety of goals that our students set for themselves. I had one woman who just wanted to learn enough English so she could read a reading at church. And for her, that was just an ultimate dramatic feeling that she could sit in front of a crowd of her friends and just do a reading at church that she couldn't do before. And one of my other students, he had applied for a job, and he failed to get that job. And shortly thereafter, he reapplied after getting his GED. And not only did he get the job, but he got a higher paid position, making $7 higher than what he actually applied for. And that, for me to see this type of success and to experience this success, it really is a life-changing experience. So I'm just hoping that we can, work with you and gain some support and help others to experience what I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or?
Councilmember Pelota.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for the presentation, and I appreciate it very much. And we'll try to do everything we can to support you. But can you tell me right now, because I don't have the figures in front of me, I was looking at some figures, but they're for capital, and this is not capital. What is the support that the town is giving you now?
None.
None.
Yeah.
Okay. And how long has that been going on?
So that's been the last 2 years. And prior to that, it was $15,000 a year. I think, Mayor, we had $15,000 a year for 3 years, and then before that it was closer to $10,000.
Okay. So for the last 2 years, we haven't been able to assist you.
That's correct.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, I think we ought to look at that when we get into our budget process. Your fiscal year starts the same time as ours?
July 1st.
July 1st. Okay.
That's right.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. I would highly encourage us. I know that the last year we had to look at some of our matching funds and how we were going to match to bring in some infrastructure funds, and we made a policy decision, the council, I think, during their budget process, that we're going to pull back on supporting some of these very, very important issues, but or initiatives such as the Learning Center, and I think that it's time that we really go back and see how much we can support that and look at allocating perhaps that $25,000 that step it up rather than step back. I think it's the results that you're generating clearly is phenomenal, and also from the private sector. I think that the community embraces this, and if the radio stations, we can do a radiothon to raise monies, in addition to what the town of Taos is supporting, we would definitely be amenable to that.
Great. Mayor, thank you.
So
it really is a solid investment. Education is what just makes the biggest difference.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
So we could look at allocating that in our next budget. Councilmember Gonzalez and then Youth Councilmember Langra.
I want to say thank you to everybody for coming out. I know, I've always often felt that the gateway to success is education, and an educated community, I've said this publicly many times, that an educated community is an empowered community. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's true testament just in sheer numbers by the individuals that are here. And, I think this is just the first step, and I think there's many avenues wide open to you coming up in the future. A little later in our agenda, it's actually near towards the end under matters from mayor and council. I'm bringing to this council, and it's unfortunately it's based by organization, so I'm bringing it to the town of Taos. It's called College for America, and what it allows you to earn a bachelor's degree for $2,500. It's a 2-year program. It's sponsored by the Department of Education, and it is federally financial aid available. You can apply for federal financial aid funds through an accredited college. It runs right now through Southern New Hampshire University, and I have backing documentation from Jim Gilroy, who would love to see it come to the University of New Mexico. Mm-hmm. And whether or not the main campus embraces it or not is a whole other thing. But I think the more we can look to enhance this community and enhance it through its members through education, the better off we all will be. So I applaud each and every one of you for the steps that you've taken to get that to this point.
Thank you.
And congratulations to everyone out there.
Yeah.
You guys are awesome, and I know that I've always believed that education is the foundation of a good economy. So congratulations.
And truly, congratulations to the students. I mean, these people, most of them have 1 job, 2 jobs, and they're there. We have 30 students across the street tonight. who are just trying to get ahead.
Absolutely.
It's, you know,
Youth member Landgraf?
I'd like to say thank you for all that you do. The numbers, like 61 students that have graduated, are amazing, and it's great to see. It's a testament to how well you do and how well you interact with everyone, to see everyone out here tonight. I'd like to thank everything that you do, and it's amazing to hear the stories just like that, and I'm sure everyone here has their own stories about it. And then also, I just would like to say thanks for improving the community to a point of, through an economical standpoint, because of reduced recidivism rates and things like that. Everything that you guys do is amazing, and thank you, and keep up the good work.
thanks, Michael.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, everyone. Thank you, and we will make sure we support you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mayor, I might say I just got a text confirming.
Mr. Northrop, or to item 7A. Okay. Joanie Griffin, welcome. Welcome.
I'm coming with an army.
Thank you. Welcome to our
Good
meeting.
evening, Mayor, councilors. I know everybody. I'm Joanie Griffin, Griffin Associates, the tourism marketing contractor, and the Tuesday marketing group that you hear about. John Ablin, Janet Webb, Robert Cafazzo, Karina Armijo, David Mapes, and then who's not here from staff is Alan Sanchez.
There's some chairs in the back there if you'd like to.
Alan's here. Alan Sanchez from the Visitor Center and Oscar Rodriguez are also part of the committee.
Great.
We emptied out. We cleared that room out. So we're presenting to you the 2015 marketing plan. I believe it was in everybody's handouts that you got ahead of time. Just wanted to give you some highlights. This is hot off the press. I just got the stats last night from the state for the first quarter lodgers tax from July through September of 2014. The town of Taos is at 13.67% above where we were same period last year. The city of Santa Fe is down 9.8% for the same period last year, and the state as a whole is down 1.5%. So also in your report that we gave you were some information on competitive markets around us, other mountain towns. So I'm really pleased to say we're doing really well. So it's the first time we are now double-digit growth every year for the first 5 months of this fiscal year, which is the first time I've seen it in the 7 years I've been working with the town. Some of the other highlights, we've had 51 A-list media placed so far this fiscal year. A-list media are media with circulations, viewerships, or listenerships over 500,000. So some of the highlights, Foders named us one of the the best ski towns for foodies. AOL.com rated us over the holidays for one of the top holiday adventure destinations. The Weather Channel just last week had a big feature on llama trekking. And the Huffington Post says we are one of the best mountain music towns. So those were all just great national news stories in the last 2 months. So it's been really exciting to see all the positive press. Our web visits are up 43% over this time last year. So things are moving in the right direction. And the report that we gave you, and I hope everybody's had a chance to look at it, it's a little bit lengthy. There was quite a few addendums. We're asking for a budget that is $50,000 higher than what we have, what we spent in fiscal year 13. And mainly what we'll be focusing on is, with that extra money, is moving it to reach the younger demographic that we're hoping to grow into regular Taos visitors. The focus will be both on younger boomers, Gen Xers, and then millennials as a third generation. The national statistics are looking at what's projected for fiscal year 15 is a 2% growth. Nationally, they're not expecting that we're going to go beyond 2% until 2016. However, we're having such great results, the committee has decided we're going to set our bar a little higher, so we're going to look to double the national average and have our goal be 4% for fiscal year 15. So as you recall back when we met this time last year, Oscar put in place for every department specific measurable results that we were to accomplish. And so far we are ahead on all measures. So the measures that we're looking at are increases in lodgers tax, increases in A-list media stories, and increases in web visits. So we open it up to questions.
I just want to, before we go to the council, I just want to commend you on an excellent job you're doing for Taos. I know that we're getting all those accolades from all those media, and it's great to be on the map as touted as one of the best of so many things, and that shows that our marketing efforts are clearly working, and it's a collaborative effort of all of you. And we sincerely appreciate all of your support and volunteerism, if you will, to make sure that Joanie gets that message on what we need to promote and what works best for Taos. And I think that the council has shown its commitment by continually keeping that budget whole, making sure we don't deviate from that. And I would hope that the county would start changing their paradigm on how they're giving lodger's tax, so that it goes collectively into one pot and with solid accountability measures of, quantifying, is it yielding what we need and stuff like that. So kudos to all of you for the excellent job you're doing. Councilmember Beta.
Thank you, Mayor Cordova. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Joanie. 7 years ago, the town of Taos made a paradigm shift on how we were going to market and promote Taos. Those folks that recall back then, we were only spending $100,000 a year to market and promote Taos. Myself as a council member and Mayor Cordova then as a council member spearheaded the effort to think outside the box and change how we looked at marketing. And here we are today, just got out of the worst economic decline that we've seen since the Great Depression, and Taos fared well. Taos is sitting solid. We're solid in the black budgets. Contrary to what you may hear out in the grapevine that the town is broke, let me tell you folks, the town of Taos is not broke. We sit solid. We're postured to move into the future. During these harsh economic times, we implemented some very aggressive programs, from expansions to solar arrays to street improvements, and this marketing effort that we're now spending approximately $400,000 a year. 7 years ago, we talked about how we would like to get that closer to $1 million a year, and we haven't forgotten that. We faced some hard economic times. You're being very generous or modest or conservative and saying we'd like $50,000 more. We will definitely look at that and see what we can do. Thank you.
Any comments? Councilmember Gonzalez.
Joanie and the entire Tuesday morning staff, thank you. Yeah, I mean, the proof ultimately and the truth to the testament's in the numbers. And when we see Taos start to increase in those tourism dollars, it really says a lot about what you all are doing, and even more so with regards to how we allocate and how we fund the advertising budget. So I, for one, as one counselor, I'm extremely data-driven. So when I start to see increase in numbers, when I see increase in GRT through our finance department, I get a big smile on my face because it lets me know we're doing things right. And regardless of what the detractors say, that we're on a downward spiral trend and we'll continue to head that way, I think you can't question data. So thank you for the efforts that you put into it and everything that you guys do.
Okay. Councilmember Peralta.
Thank you, Joanie and friends. I truly applaud you in what you've done so far, and I think that you have been very, very acceptable to information or requests and thoughts about where we should market, how we should market, and where should we move into the future. And so I think it's very important for us to acknowledge that. But secondly, I think your request for additional funding is right on the button. We need to do more. If we look at how the GRT is coming in, there are some gaps even in the tourist industry that we need to fill. And so the better that we can market those areas that need support, the more we will fulfill our need for an all-around marketing program. And you're right, that younger demographic is an outdoor group. The older demographic is a more indoor group, but not so much anymore. They're still out there walking around and hiking and biking. So, but we need to get them into those areas that are in the downtown area and that sort of thing. And so we need to do that marketing. I think that, members of the council and mayor, one of the things we need to look at is that we're saving some money now by turning over the convention center to UNM-Taos that was taking some of those lodgers' dollars for support that we can now put into our advertising program. And I think that's it, plus the fact that we have some extra money coming in now that was not budgeted based upon your 13% improvement. So I think that we have an opportunity at this time to really look at how we can boost the budget. to make some things happen here, because I think we're right on that step to the next level. And we need to make sure that we take advantage of that and be out front before somebody else takes those people from us. So thank you very much for what you do.
Thank you. And I also just want to remind everybody, you're all always invited to our Tuesday marketing meetings, 9 a.m. at the Visitor Center. Would love to have input.
Your coffee's too strong. No, I'm kidding.
I caught you what?
I said your coffee's too strong, but I'm just kidding.
You can bring your own.
Councilmember Silva.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, Joanie and crew, thank you. You know, I can't say anything more than has already been said. I do have a couple of questions, and that is, with the numbers, I would like to see Texas numbers up and maybe some Arizona folks come spending money in our town. What are we doing about that?
Well, we are marketing a lot in Texas. We have tried Arizona on many different occasions, and for whatever reason, we can't seem to entice Arizona. It seems they choose to go to the White Mountains over Taos. If you have any magic bullets, we're open to it. And I met with the Taos Ski Valley marketing folks today, too, and they're noticing the same thing. So the big markets for us are Texas, Albuquerque, and Colorado. And we have not seemed to be able to crack west of the border. So
Okay.
I don't have a magic bullet.
Well, if we can't attract the ones from Arizona, maybe we can.
You have a magic bullet?
No, I was just going to say, I just wanted to say, though, that they do jump over Arizona from California and come here.
No, California does all the time, yeah. It's interesting, though. We have not been able to, we spent quite a bit of money and effort in Arizona. We did a big Pandora buy last year. I think I shared that at a couple council meetings ago, and we did have Arizona in there, Phoenix and Tucson, and barely any movement, versus Albuquerque, Denver, Boulder, Colorado Springs, Texas. We had great results. And Southern California, we advertised in LA and San Diego. So I don't know. Something wrong with Arizona.
There's something wrong with them. Yeah, it's their loss, I guess. Well, here before too long, on March 5th, I would have served 5 years and 2 months with the council. And during that time, I quickly learned that through marketing is how we were going to survive these tough times. And I wholeheartedly agreed that we have to continuously look for ways to increase that marketing budget. So I too agree that 50,000 is a modest number. If we can, if this council can continue to 100.
We'll take more.
If this council and whoever fills my particular seat, because I'm not going to be running, if they can just stay focused with that, because as great of a commodity as we have here in Taos and the magical place that we have to offer and share, once the people get here one time, just get them here one time, they'll be back. And so thank you, Joanie and crew, again, for everything that you've done for the town of Taos.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Joanie, real quick, I know you guys don't often collaborate with a lot of the nonprofits that we have within the group, but there's one that I feel isn't so much a nonprofit as it is a partner to the city, and that's the Taos Sports Alliance with regards to their high altitude sports training and what they do. So I would like, if there's some way possible, because that Eco Park is so vested to the city and it means a lot to the city, and its viability is extremely important to me as one councilor, and I know to this mayor and council, that I would ask that if there's any way possible, we start looking at ways to start making more elaborate of their events with regards to that FIFA rating.
So we do, just so you know, Karina Armijo is their marketing person, so we're very much attached at the hip, and we do always promote Taos Sports Alliance events through our public relations and through our e-blasts.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
And one of the things that is hitting big now is the marriage equality, the promotions that we're doing there, and I'll be attending on Thursday, correct?
Thursday at noon.
Yeah. Okay, and as you were mentioning the younger demo, I think the challenge that we have is being an art community is the younger demo that's coming, shopping in our local art places and stuff, and are they, so we have to kind of make sure we find that balance, the artists that are going to shop at our galleries, and then also bring in the younger demographic. Also like to give kudos to the private lodgers, the private funds that each of the lodgers do on their own. There's a lot of money that goes out there to market certain businesses that is, not necessarily funneled through your agency, but that they upmarket their own. People are committed to this, and clearly we're seeing the results.
The other entity, too, is the Taos County Lodgers Association.
Sure.
Janet Webb has been the agency of record for the Taos County Lodgers Association for decades, and then John Ablin is a part of that group, and you'll see in the budget, I did allocate there, they spend about $220,000, and we market together.
And that comes from private.
Correct. Yeah.
So kudos to your organization. I mean, that shows the commitment of these business owners to market their business in a collaborative forum. The challenge that we have now is the snow. I mean,
But Karina said she'd be in charge of snow.
So if you can help with that, I mean, if you know the higher ups there, but we're bringing them here. It's clear that you're doing your job by the results. 13% up on our lodgers tax, where the Santa Fe is down 9%.
Almost 10, yeah.
I mean, that shows that we're really on the map now. Getting them here now, what is the business community doing once they're here? And while they're coming, they're not necessarily spending as much money as I think the business community would like to see them do. But you're doing your job. You're bringing them here. So kudos to you. Councilmember Silva.
Just one more thing. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Joanie, out of all the other villages and towns within the Enchanted Circle, do you represent and market for any of them?
No.
It seems to me that, it would be nice if you could maybe show up to one of our intergovernmental councils meetings and maybe try to drum up some of that business, so then that maybe we can, you have a big smile, I'm not sure, there must be something behind that, but that way we can maybe collaborate with them and join these marketing dollars, and that way we get a bigger bang for our buck.
And there is an Enchanted Circle marketing group.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, that I think you're the,
Yeah.
so everybody contributes a little bit of money into that.
Yes, but I mean, I think
I'd be
it
happy
wouldn't be a
to
bad
come in,
idea
yeah.
to go to one, so maybe if you can check with Abigail, and
Sure.
I sit on that council, so I'd be curious to see what kind of talk we can generate out of that.
I think the idea that we have, 4 resorts within a
Right.
40-mile radius of each other. So I think that's the marketing scheme and it's on its own.
Definitely.
Yeah.
One of the things that we've learned is that when people come to Taos, it isn't the town of Taos, it's the area of Taos. So to support what you're saying, we're reaching out to like Taos Ski Valley, Red River, trying to see how can we work more collaboratively together. And everyone has their own little fiefdoms, but I think it's more important that we keep on pushing that idea to the
And
groups.
the reason I bring that up is maybe, you mentioned, $100,000. Well, maybe they can, combined, maybe they can come up with the other 50. So maybe we are, looking at maybe pushing up to the $500,000 limit or level. So it's just an idea maybe we ought to explore.
Well, I think there's a lot of things to promote, because now that they purchased the ski valley, we're going to have a lot of exciting things. While we're world-renowned, I think they're going to make it a lot more attractive for the younger demographics. And with our airport, almost completed, the design almost complete, and groundbreaking scheduled this summer, I think that's going to go in harmony to bring more people in.
When do you think the airport will actually be operational?
They say 2015.
So
2015
really,
completion.
so 2 years, less than 2 years.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. 2015, groundbreaking this summer. It's
That will be huge. That will be a game changer.
yeah.
Yes.
Start marketing that.
One of the things that you just mentioned, like the Taos Ski Valley, when we were developing the plan, we had no idea of the pending sale. This group here is the group that looks at the plan, because it's like a blueprint. We also recognize that sometimes we have to make changes to adopt to events that come up or opportunities that come up. And so that's like the example of the Taos Ski Valley sale. We're already trying to think through, okay, now what do we do a little differently to shine a light on that? And it's not necessarily the snow, because right now that's a little difficult, but maybe it's the outdoor activities, et cetera. So we're working through that, and Karina is also very involved with Taos Ski Valley.
That's why she's our snow bunny.
Yeah, with a lot of her clients up there. So we're trying to always, look at things that are the next month, the next 3 months out, and make moderate changes as we see appropriate. And I think that's also the strength that Joanie and her organization brings. Instead of just saying, look, this is in concrete, they are very flexible and recognize when there's something that could possibly change that could benefit everybody. So kudos to Joanie's group.
That's great.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
Nice shirt.
Just want to thank you all again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you all. Thank you. I appreciate it. Next, we will go to item B, consideration possible approval of grant agreement 13 JAGW-TAOS 2 SFY 14 with the New Mexico Department of Public Safety in the amount of $7,475 for the purchase of 25 field-deployed audio-video recording devices, body cameras for the Taos Police Department. Chief, welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Ms. Adami.
I'd like to welcome the Honorable Judge Chavez to our audience. Welcome, Judge.
Gentlemen, this is the second grant the police department's received in this last couple months. This grant is from the Edward Byrne 2012 Justice Agreement Grant, or Justice Assistant Grant. We were awarded $7,475 for body cameras, and this does not require any matching funds from the town tax.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Chief, I want to say thank you for pursuing the funds. I know you and I have talked several times with regards to the taser cam or something similar to it, and I'm glad that you acted on it, and I'm glad that our officers will get this not only for their own safety but for the safety of our citizens as well, and I appreciate you jumping on that as quick as you did.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much, and you're doing a great job for us.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Councilmember Peralta.
Just one thing, Chief. Do all of our vehicles now have dash cams?
The state of repair inside the dash cams is not so good. We have probably about 25% that are down right now. So this is the next grant that I'm trying to pull through right now, which is we need a couple vehicles, but also we have the Bureau of Justice. I actually put in for them for their assistance, and I'm hoping with their assistance we'll be able to come up with a roadmap to where we'll be able to increase our technology inside the vehicles and also inside the department. So,
what is the life expectancy of one of those dash cams?
What I've actually found is normally in the area of 4 years in that ballpark. Now, also something, Counselor, is that the technology also changes about every 18 months to every 24 months, and so trying to stay on top of that is a constant battle as well. Many of the cameras that we have are actually VHS tapes, and then the other half are actually on a hard drive. And so that's something else that we need to figure inside this, the 5-year plan that I'm trying to put together right now. I'm really hoping to be able to rotate as technology becomes new and try to make that sustainable so we stay on top of it.
So the dash cam is not on all the time?
That's correct, sir.
So it's on when you make a stop, you turn it on and...
Yeah, the dash cams can be configured a couple different ways, depending upon which kind of camera that you want. There are cameras that can be turned on all the time. There's other ones that can be remotely turned on. Most of the time, the cameras are set so that when the emergency lights are activated, that's when the camera comes on, most times. Now, also, many of the cameras that we have, the ones that are digitally formatted, when the camera is activated, it actually goes back approximately a minute before. And so it does short-term memory recording all the time, and then when the camera's activated, it'll actually hard record the previous minute or so.
So what do you do with a VHS tape?
And that's when I started the Town Taos 2006, that was actually a good system. That was actually the system to go to. So, yeah. It's just amazing the leaps and bounds that technology do, that it changes so frequently.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I could ask just one more question. Chief, with regards to this set, I know we talked with regards to some of the technology that was out there.
Yes, sir.
Is this going to be cloud-based, or is it going to be hit as soon as they drive in the parking lot? How is that going to work?
This actually has to be downloaded to servers. We looked at the cloud-based system, and while that is certainly something we should go to or we can go to in the future, it has an ongoing price that I wasn't able to put inside the budget at this time. And once again, when the Bureau of Justice, hopefully when they do come in, and I should hear about that this week, hopefully, I really want to push the fact that I want this organization to be data-driven. I want us to be at the state-of-the-art that we can with the technology, to use as much information as we can to help predict crime trends, and that would be part of the big picture. So.
Is this Taser brand?
Actually, this right here is an open grant, so we can go to the best price. Currently, I am leaning towards Taser. Also, the prices of these units are going to go up $100 each very shortly. So, I'm like I said, I'm really leaning towards Taser due to how rugged they are and the size of them and everything else. I think they'd probably be the best bang for the buck.
And these will run full-time then?
I'm sorry, sir?
These will run full-time?
No, sir. These body cams will be activated by the officers themselves.
Okay.
Okay. What is the pleasure of the council?
Move for approval.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay, next we will go to item C, Resolution 1412, consideration and possible approval of Resolution 1412 to extend the inception date for previously approved housing projects which were placed on hold due to the poor economy for multiple years, to obtain building permits and resume construction under the previously approved planning applications without having to obtain Development Review Committee, Planning and Zoning Commission, and council approval again pursuant to Town Code Section 1612-070. Councilmember Peralta.
Mr. Mayor, I think we need to approve this, but I was just concerned as to how many of these projects there might be out there. I noticed that Martha's not in the audience tonight.
Martha's fell ill today, but I've been told that there's several. I know that there's more, I think, than a handful, and this would only apply to those projects that have not had any changes. And they're hoping, the applicant is hoping to pursue the financing around this time so that they can break ground in the spring.
Okay, what is the pleasure of the council?
Move for approval, Mr. Mayor.
Motion
Second.
to approve and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we'll go to item D, review and approval of the annual audit, financial audit report for fiscal year 2012-2013 for the town of Taos, prepared by Accounting and Consulting Group, LLP. Marietta, welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, Assistant Town Manager, and Mr. Landgraf. Today we have Bobby Gonzalez. Sorry. You haven't been around that long, so Robert, go ahead, Gonzalez.
Gonzalez, Robert, welcome.
Cordova.
Cordova.
No relation.
Cordova.
He hasn't
It was a test. I didn't say anything.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay,
Robert Cordova, no relation. No
It's
relation.
been a long day.
I was about to say no relation to.
No relation to the mayor, yes. I apologize for that. He really was away from our audit this year, but he is the partner that is presenting. So Bobby Cordova from Accounting and Consulting Group. We hired them through an RFP process, and then we're on this is their fifth year of our annual audit preparation. They did the field work in August, and in September. We got our letter from the auditor, I think, in December. And I'll just let him go through some of the explanations and some of what the audit, the processes that they do, and we'll come back to me if you have questions at that time.
Welcome to our meeting.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been called a lot worse, so saying nothing is okay. So, thank you for having me. This is the official presentation for the fiscal year 13 financial statement audit. The state auditor rule requires the firm to come and talk to you about the results. Marietta mentioned we started back in May, June, conducted field work, and the regulatory due date was December 1st. Okay, and I think we submitted about 2 weeks before that, so that's the earliest that the financial statements have been submitted to Santa Fe. And so it was a pretty comfortable submittal. There were some delays, and thus the release letter didn't come back till late December. Okay. We did have the exit conference, and we discussed the details of the findings. So typically at these presentations, we don't do that unless you have questions. So once I'm finished, I'll open up to questions if you have any. Okay. I'm just going to talk a little bit about what our responsibility is. We've been over this before, but just to rehash that, go over the opinions that were rendered on the financial statements themselves. Have a few financial highlights, and then we have just real high level on the findings. Have a couple repeats, a couple that have been resolved, and so we'll talk about that. you know, when we're out here on the field and we're in the finance office or we're at the departments going and messing their day to day, I just want the council to know that your departments and the staff were real pleasant to work with. So doing their day to day, and then us, hey, give me this, give me that. You know, so on behalf of my team, I want to thank them. And then they should be recognized for that. So ultimately, the financial statements themselves, that book, that's your responsibility and management's responsibility. The auditor's responsibility is to render an opinion about the reliability of the financial information and the disclosures and the schedules that are in that big financial statement. So that's the first 2-page report that you'll find in the financial. This year we rendered an unmodified opinion. Now that term is different than prior years. The prior year we would come report the opinion that was rendered was an unqualified, and our professional standards have issued clarity standards to try and make it easier for the users of financial statements throughout our country. So whether if it's a publicly traded company, municipality, the unmodified term is equivalent to unqualified. And I think it was just the clarity project was supposed to be like, well, unqualified, you know, these folks are unqualified to do the, you know, so it's unmodified. Okay? That's the best opinion you can get. Now remember, we don't test every single balance. We don't test every single grant, contract, law or rule. There's just so many out there. We'd be here camped out the entire year, you know, but we do a risk-based approach. Part of that is talking to you, talking to management, getting an understanding of the changes for the year, and throughout that process, if we find deficiencies or deviations from what's supposed to happen, compliance deviations, we'll report that in the form of findings. Okay, so that's the second report that you'll find in the latter part of the financial. Okay, as we understand your systems, tell us about how you collect money in the utilities, tell us about how you pay folks, and throughout that process, if there's deficiencies in internal control, we'll note that in the findings, or if maybe the design is okay, but as we pull transactions and test against that design, there's deviations from that design. Okay, and then there's operational effectiveness problems, and so there's different severities of findings. But the second report in there, that's ultimately the next high-level objective. Okay, and then the third, since the town spent over $500,000 in fiscal year 13, we conducted a single audit, and we conducted a single audit on 2 major programs. Okay, the programs were CDBG and the airport improvement programs. So again, it's a risk-based approach. In Washington, they have the U.S. Government Accountability Office, has a whole program of the gatekeeper, the auditor, doing specific audits on specific grants and programs, and these 2 happen to be the ones that were chosen this year that met the threshold. And so we render an opinion about the compliance with regards to those 2 programs only. So it's not all of the federal award, it's just those 2. And $1.4 million of the entire amount was audited, and their opinion was rendered as, again, unmodified. Okay? No findings in the federal award area, so that's a big deal. Okay, big deal there. A few financial highlights. One of the most notable ones was the landfill liability. That's a big estimate, okay? And over the years, I think we've got better information in fiscal year 13, better audit evidence, and that decreased $220,000. So just be mindful of that going forward in doing your projections. I know you're going to do 5-year stuff, but just be mindful of that. But anyways, that estimate was decreased $220,000. We felt it was reasonable, and there was evidence to support that. The overall equity or net position, so the net worth of the town went up $1.5 million for fiscal year 13. We had an increase in charges for services in the proprietary funds, and also an increase in the capital grants. And a lot of the expenditures were capital in nature, so you don't recognize the entire expenditure in fiscal year 13. It's depreciated over a certain amount of time. Okay. Moving on to the findings, material weakness is the worst finding you can get. Okay, that warrants the attention of the folks in these seats, and those are things you need to fix. You didn't have any material weaknesses. Again, we don't look at every single control process, But again, next year we might change it, tweak it, look at different departments, and or if there's personnel changes, we consider all those. We did have a couple findings repeated from fiscal year 12. Those two were over leave slips and time slips, and then also with regards to the landfill, the cash collection process. We think you need to tighten controls over there. We talked about that in the exit conference. And then we had 4 new findings. These were classified as other matters. So of the 3 levels of severity, that's, I guess, the lowest is what you're going to call it. Do we still bring it to your attention? Yeah. But again, we can't test every single rule and law, so we might do it every other year. Or if we stumble across something, then that's where those come about. So it's kind of like, well, how do we get like no findings? And I get this question all the time. But again, it's sort of a moving target. And some of these are indicative of that. But your responses in the corrective action plan, if you implement that, I think you can resolve all of these. 2 findings from fiscal year 12 were resolved. That was noncompliance with the town policy with regards to vehicle use, and then cash appropriations in excess of available cash balances. That was a budgeting issue. So both of those were resolved. Other than that, you'll have a little reporting package. It's just for the council, and in there it talks about accounting policies. There were some new accounting policies that accounting standards in our country issued, and those were implemented into your financial statements. In addition, it talks about the estimates of quality of the estimates, disagreements with management, and audit adjustments. There were audit adjustments, and so some of those might have to be posted for fiscal year 13 to close those out to roll forward for fiscal year 14. But all those are communicated in that written thin document. And then the very final 2-pager is the internal control of the findings. Okay, we talked about that, the exit, and at a high level right now. I'll open it up to questions. Again, it was a pleasure. We felt like we worked well with the team here at the town. Next year, again in May, we're going to start early, and we write those written communications and if folks aren't here, if you said you weren't going to run again, but we encourage you. We need you to answer those. Okay, that's what we ask you. Tell us what the problems are. Tell us what keeps you up, and that's really important to us because we're not here the whole year. And so, but again, we commend Marietta and her team. We felt good about things. So,
any comments, questions? I just want to express my sincere appreciation to you, Marietta, and your staff for everything you do. Zero, what is that?
Material
weaknesses. That speaks volumes. I mean, that speaks volumes of your diligence in making sure that we have our finances in control. Are you the same company that did the counties as well?
Our firm does the county's audit, yeah.
Yeah, and I heard that they had 21 material weaknesses, and I mean that is to get the best opinion on our audit. You said the unmodified.
Right.
That is the best opinion that you could get. It speaks volumes, and I really appreciate that because that's crucial when we're applying for federal grants, for state and federal grants. We need to have our budgets in order, and of course, when you have material weaknesses, that could jeopardize your ability to get some of these grants if your budget shows some weaknesses on there. So, congratulations and thank you.
Let me just before you sparked something. DFA and at the legislature, there's been a lot of scrutiny on local municipalities or counties that have repeated audit findings, and so they're going to start, and it's already happened, stripping funding, withholding funding. So I would start with your repeat findings. I understand you have an audit committee and you have a corrective action plan for the repeated, so you need to try and get those resolved. And you can tell by the number of the finding, that was the first year it became a finding. So 2010, so 10, 11, 12, 13, 4 fiscal years now, one of them has been an issue. Okay, so, sure. But yeah, that's a good point. Just that there's a lot of scrutiny, and you don't have any real big red flags. You're not going to put on a high risk list or anything like that. But repeated findings, there's been a lot of scrutiny, and just within New Mexico in terms of that. So
it's a huge element on the scoring when they're scoring your application for any of those. So, Councilmember Gonzalez.
Marietta, thank you for everything that you've done. And again, you mentioned the the diligence of the staff as well. And that's one appreciation I'd like to give to them as well, because anytime they come before us for funding or changes in their budget, they're extremely tedious and timed with regards to what they're asking for. And I think that's a testament that shows with regards to in this report. And thank you for bringing to light, again, the scrutiny that the state and the federal government are starting to now place more heavily on municipalities and counties with regards to the findings. And I know ours aren't major, but it's something that we should probably work extremely quick and expediently to take care of. I'd like to know when the county's findings come out, because I think that'll play a huge role with regards to whether or not half the things they want to do are actually achievable. And again, it speaks volumes of what the administration does, what our staff does, and the diligence that Marietta works towards daily. Being the mayor pro tem for the last almost year now, I get to talk with Marietta staff and Marietta quite a bit, and they're always diligent. And I've never found a report where anything was so major that it caused me to bring red flags. So thank you, Marietta, and please thank the staff in the finance department as well.
Thank you, I will. Thank you all. And really, nobody sees what goes behind the scenes. So when these guys come with their 5 people in one room with 5 laptops and printers, and everybody just says, oh, okay, go through it, and they're gone, and they have a party. No, they don't. We really appreciate. We work well together.
I would call it a party.
No, I'm just kidding. It's a lot of paper shuffle asking, but it's what we have to do. It's part of our job, and we enjoy it. I'll say we enjoy it. We do. To come out with this, we enjoy it.
And kudos to all the management and all of the directors as well, because they have to manage their budgets within the confines of what you want to see.
They have to put up with us.
So Councilmember Peralta, and then Councilmember Silva, and then Abate.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'd also like to thank Marietta and her staff and the auditors for all they do. I have been fortunate in the last 2 years to be on the pre-audit committee and also on the closing audit committee and now on the internal audit committee. And so it's been very, very enlightening to me that staff has been so willing to be open and dedicated to making sure that everything is right, and if something is found wrong, that they find ways to fix it. And I know exactly the one you're talking about that's there, and that's the landfill fund that needs to be worked on, and we've talked about that. And then the audit committee is going to probably be one of the first things that we look at in trying to come up with a solution to that issue, because it is one that is difficult to do because of its remoteness to the rest of the staff. So, but there is no more dedicated person than Marietta and her staff to get this thing fixed. So I commend them on that, and I know it's going to happen. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilmember Silva.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Marietta, Councilman Peralta actually used the word twice, and I was going to describe yourself and your staff, and that was dedication. And it's just a testament to what I also believe is that in my experience, anytime I go into the finance department or the utility department, I mean, every single thing that you all do, every time I've been in there, you all are busy, you're working, you're getting the job done, you're dedicated. And thank you for that, and thank you for continuously trying to improve, because I've seen that over the years as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and I will definitely let my staff know if they're not watching us on TV, but they are all hard workers, all of us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Abate.
Thank you, Mayor Cordova. Mr. Cordova, thank you very much for a very thorough annual audit. Marietta, you and your staff deserve tons of kudos. Not only did you not have any material weaknesses this year, but I think it's been several years that you haven't had any. So it's a continuous history of doing well. Yes, we've had a couple of findings. We've fixed a couple. We've had a couple of repeats. We'll fix those. But truly a remarkable track record. The town of Taos continues to operate in a very solid manner. Thanks to you, Marietta, and thanks to your entire staff. I was at finance today at 4:30, and you guys were working hard, so keep it up.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? This is the approval. Entertain a motion to approve the audit as presented.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Marietta.
Thank
you again.
Thank you,
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Mayor. Have a good night.
You too.
And I think it's a testament also to this council that we're committed to fixing a lot of these issues by being an open and transparent, by having this audit committee that's comprised of community members as well. So thanks for doing that. Okay. Next, we will go to item E, presentation of the monthly financial report for period ending December 31st, 2013. Consideration and possible approval of a 5-year budget forecast for assumptions that will guide the development of the upcoming fiscal year 2014-2015. Marietta, welcome to our meeting.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, please, before Marietta goes ahead and gets started, I do want to point out that this is the second year that we do provide a 5-year projection plan for the mayor and council. It's a different way of doing business, and I think it goes hand in hand with what the auditor just said, Mr. Cordova, and that we are attempting our best to be transparent and provide these numbers to you in advance. Two of the major points that they'll be covering, Marietta and Miranda, or assumptions, and they'll get into it a little bit further, are for the first time in 4 years, we will be recommending an equivalent of 3% COLA for employees. We do intend to put a plan together and so that the council can approve that or modify that during our budget retreat. And we also are projecting a 2% increase on our revenues and expenditures. Now, when you adjust to the inflation, we almost will see that we won't have an increase at all, but it does amount to about 0.4%. So with that, go ahead, Marietta.
I guess we'll go because I think the December report was there before the 5-year projection. So I guess we can go back to that. It's all pretty related with the information that we're going to provide to you. So if we go to our budget assumptions for this coming fiscal year 14-15, our general fund revenues, like Abigail said, we are going to do a 2% annual increase in overall revenues, and this is just for the general fund. We're just preparing the general fund right now. We are going to eliminate all convention center revenues, and that equates to approximately $124,000. We're retaining a 50-day ending balance with a gradual increase to a 51-day ending balance by the 5th year. On our general fund expenditures, we're including, as she said, an equivalent to a 3% increase to wages and associated benefits to that. And based on meetings and with the staff and the committee that is going over all this, it will be determined of what actually happens with that. It may be a 1% across the board COLA with adjustments to equity correction on other compensation pays for other people. It just depends on what they come out with. But this is just a 3%, so we do have the money in the budget to do that. And then on the second, the years after this next year, we will do a 2% annual increase beginning in 15-16. On the capital improvements plan, we're looking at a 2% annual increase also in revenues. Most of those are funded by gross receipts taxes for capital projects and just associated grants. Our expenditures for the capital is based on a 5-year capital improvements plan that all the departments have already submitted and council has approved. We're working on the last year of that in this next couple of weeks. So right now we just have what they've presented to you before. And all appropriations are expensed in the scheduled year. And then just a policy change. This is just one that we're looking at coming through the budget process. We will have a couple of other maybe on the procurement side, but right now we see that the budget adjustments are sometimes coming into the council that may not be necessary, and we're looking at a change to the policy to allow administrative approval to move monies between categories up to the lesser of $25,000 or 10%. That's just interdepartment. That's not from a department to another department. So that's a budget policy change that we're looking at going forward. And like I said, we probably will bring some up when the actual budget process goes.
And Mr. Mayor and council members, let me just point out that that's just for efficiency purposes. As it is today, that if we want to move a dollar, literally $1 from personnel into our operating budgets, we have to come before the mayor and council for approval to do that.
So if we go to the slide, can you all see that on your screens or on your iPads? I know I sent a an amended one with some changes, but if you can see them up there. So if you look at the revenues, the first column is our approved budget. That's what was approved at the beginning of the fiscal year for 13-14. In the second column, you can see our expected amended budget, which means we've taken into consideration our mid-year budget adjustments that will be presented to you on the first meeting in February, but I've already ran those numbers, and then going out the 5 years. So if you see, we're keeping the available balances on the reserve of 50 days and gradually increasing to 51 days. If you see our revenues, current revenues is projected to be $10,454, $10,454,675 going into fiscal year 14-15. Yes, sir.
So in theory, one can say that we're nearly double the, 10 days shy of the required amount for our reserves.
10 days shy of 2/12.
10 days shy of 2/12.
Yes.
So we're nearly double.
We're nearly double
Yes.
we're nearly double our required reserves.
Sure.
Yes, you're correct on that. So if you can see the current revenues, available revenues is just after we put aside our reserve amount is $10,799,000. If you see our current expenditures at $10,425,491, and we've just put a one-time expenditures either out to a capital or to maybe community grants that the council may be interested. We've plugged in there going forward $50,000. So just going out through the whole process, like Abigail said, we did adjust for inflation of 1.6 cents, so we know the dollar is not worth what it is going to be next year and the following year, so that's why it just looks like it's an even flow, but it's based on inflation costs. So those are our main revenue sources for general fund and our personnel and operating expenses for general fund.
Thank you, Mayor. Marietta, I just have a couple of questions. I'm going to go back to the convention center, and you indicated a revenue decrease of $150,000?
$124,000. So we've taken that into that calculation. We've taken that money out of there because we're not going to be receiving it for the convention center. We're going to repurpose it down to the marketing program.
But that wasn't revenue, that was expenses that you're saving, correct?
There's two sides of it. There was revenue coming in from whatever the rentals were and
but
the
that was
lodger
like
staff.
$16,000.
We had budgeted $50,800 for that, and then there's the transfer.
No, but I'm just saying, but the actual revenue coming in was
right
about $16,000. So the savings there is really what we're looking at, and that is the savings in lodger's tax that was supporting the convention center plus general fund, and which was paying for utilities and that sort of thing.
Right.
So all of that is a savings that now is going to be able to be used in other areas of the budget, correct?
Yes, so there was two sets. There's $132,000 that we expensed out of the general fund for the marketing program. So that is part of that money is going to be repurposed for either personnel, the 3% increase more so than that for the first year, because we're just increasing personnel.
So let me get a clarification then. In your 5-year operating budget, because this is all general fund, right?
Yes, all general fund.
So is lodger's tax in your general fund?
No.
No. So the question I have then is, what I would like to see is those special funds that we have that, like transportation, the chili line, the lodger's tax, and so that we can look at those items to see how they play into our budget as well. Because is the personnel, for example, for the chili line in your budget here?
No, this is just only general fund operations. So just general fund operations.
So the utilities personnel net is not in here either?
No.
Okay. So I'm just trying to get a total picture of all of the sources of funds that we have and expenditures, because we have it all broken up into different categories based upon the revenue streams that we have for them. And just to get a total picture for the community of how much we actually bring in and put back into the community is the only reason I'm looking at that. So that, because this just tells us the general fund.
Right.
But for example, utilities is how much, $3-4 million a year?
Yes.
And then you have the chili line is what, $1 million something?
7 something this year, I think.
Yeah. So as we add all those different features that we provide to the community, it's good to see them in the process.
Okay, we can get that information in the same type of picture for you on the other funds.
And I think that'd be good for the council and the mayor to see for the purposes when we're talking about the lodger's tax and the budgeting for promotions of the community, is to see how those funds are and what we're going to be able to work with coming forward.
Okay. So,
Thank you.
is there any other questions on this slide for general fund?
Any questions by the council? Councilmember
Mr. Mayor,
Bates?
thank you. Thank you, Marietta. Just a couple of comments. So we're halfway through the fiscal year, and our gross receipts taxes are tracking 4.6% over last year, so that's a very positive indicator. 6 months of positive indicators. Our lodger's tax, which is a different item, of course, is also tracking positively. We have 50 days of cash reserves, even though state law only requires 30 days, so we're sitting pretty good. We have approximately $1.4 million plus of cash reserves. So, again, the town of Taos is sitting solid in the black. The town is not going broke. In fact, during these harsh economic times, we took our staffing levels by attrition down from 220 people to 175, which is an approximate 20% reduction in manpower, and while still virtually providing our constituents the very same level of service that they were used to back in 2005, 2006. So the town, the finance department, all our directors are to be commended for an excellent job in helping the town of Taos get through these hard times. Now let's look at the future. Taos Valley has sold. Sagebrush has sold. Monte Sagrado is on the verge of selling. All the indicators are in place to move this town forward. So we have great momentum. We have great energy. We've worked together well as a team to move us forward. The airport runway is about 90% design. That will be completed in a few months. And in the spring/summer, the construction of the new runway will begin. Irregardless of how the litigation occurs or how it goes, this project will not be compromised, and we will move forward in a positive manner. So, Marietta, again, thanks to you and your entire staff for an excellent job.
Thank you. So we'll just go to the next slide, which just shows just our 5-year trend versus 2% revenue and expenditure growth going forward. So you can see how we've dipped and gone up. That 1 year on 2011 was when we got that extra gross receipts tax for construction on the complex. So, and we're just looking at keeping revenues above our expenditures going forward. Then
Mr. Mayor, one more item. As you stated, Marietta, our town employees have not received a pay raise in over 4 years, and we're looking at doing that. Another idea besides a 3% cost of living adjustment is maybe X amount of money per hour per employee. That way it helps some of the more junior employees that are on the lower end of the pay scale to have more impact. So let's keep an open mind to the idea of, for example, 30 cents per hour for all employees, period. Another idea is the 3%. Another idea might be, as you mentioned, Marietta, giving the 3% to some, but then looking at some closing the gap where folks have fallen behind the gap over the years and aren't being properly compensated. And ultimately, we need to look at a new pay and classification plan that is more representative of where all our employees should be. So let's keep all that in mind.
We are. Thank you.
so the next sheet is, I think, our capital. And capital is pretty much our 5-year plan that we've presented to you. You obviously can see on our airport improvements, we have budgeted this current fiscal year. We have $7 million. I'm pretty sure we have $300,000 in cash, $350,000 in cash to cover our first phase. And the way the departments have budgeted is throughout the 5 years, either in phases or a completed project. So you can see the revenue sources that are funded by that, mostly grants, capital money, and also gas tax money. So based on that, we also have shown a depreciation investment depreciation cost, we've really not have put anything towards a replacement or depreciation for all of our infrastructure. So we just put a figure in there, did a 5-year average, and based on the actual expenditures that are projected throughout the 5 years, you can see that we're barely fixing some. Then we do some work on the airport, on the existing runway to maintain some of that depreciation, but really we don't have a replacement account for all our capital needs. So that's another, we've been working on building projects and, improving big projects, but nothing to reserve for a rainy day if something really happens. We've done that in the water sewer account in the enterprise fund when we did our rate increase. So we have a healthy fund balance for an asset management plan to take care of whenever something like that comes out. So something to look at in the future on our capital investment side. And I think that's it. So we'll stand for any questions. I want to thank Miranda. She's the behind the scenes putting everything together. We have a conversation. I tell her this, and she just goes like this. So she's very, very good and very helpful.
Yeah. Thank you, Miranda.
Yeah, thank you, Miranda.
As much as she hates to be recognized.
I know, she won't even.
Thank you, Miranda.
Miranda, thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
No,
Okay,
sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So,
December.
Thank you.
December.
Huh?
December.
Oh, December's report. I'm sorry. Yes. So I had a couple of changes on that one report. Just the days after doing, we had a couple of adjustments on a couple of departments for mid-years. And like I said, I'll bring that to you, but I already know those figures behind the scenes. So based on our December financial report, like Councilmember Abeta said, it was 4.6 over last year's GRT numbers, but we're still projecting that 1.8% through the end of the fiscal year. So, we've got that covered. Like you say, at the end of the year, if we need, if we have extra cash, that could go to more days if that's something that the council wants to do. Our budget, you'll see the budget adjustments next meeting. We have big expenditures in the capital fund, $942,000 in December for the passive aircraft monitoring system. The majority of that, I think we're going to be getting that operational soon in the next few weeks. We do have 100% design on Bertha Street, a preliminary design, and the drainage report done on that for Bertha Street going forward to get that project bid out. And then just, we did a payment now come in January for our first payment due for the wastewater treatment plant loan for that upgrade. We made our first $60,000 payment, zero interest, through the EID. So that is shown there. And other than that, the revenues, what we did do a couple adjustments on the revenue side on building permits. Our building permits are at about 88% through December, so we made a projection on that to increase that to $83,000 this year. We budgeted $44,000 at the beginning, so building permits are going up, things are happening. So we made that adjustment and then took out whatever convention center revenues that we weren't going to receive for the end of the year. We will have more information on the special revenue funds. We did make a projection on the historic district fund with the parking meters, and we've projected $140,500 through the end of the fiscal year, based on some calculations that we did on that.
Marietta, if I could, because I was going to ask that question anyway. I was going to say, what did we bring in December? I know you don't have January's numbers yet. But
15,000 in December. I know 15 was in January.
So we paid for the meters in the first month?
Sort of. Pretty close. In January, I think we still had 10 days left, and we were at 15,000 compared to last year. I think it was like, I'm not going to say, but I just know we had 15 already, and we still had 10 days in January. So, we started the program a little late. I think we take it through, and it's bringing it in. That's all I'm going to say. I'm just the money person.
Thank you. Good numbers.
Thank you. So other than that, that's our December report.
Marietta, Mr. Mayor, We're sitting at 49 and a half days of reserve. Is that where we're at?
We're actually, because I resent it, I had to do a couple more calculations. We're sitting at 50 days right now.
Perfect.
50 days.
Awesome. Thank you.
I think just to reiterate, I think it's the council's intention to continue any reserves we have to allocate those to in fact make it the 60 days, the 2/12. We're nearly there. We're 10 days shy of that, and I think that speaks volumes. Just knowing a lot of the projects that we're doing, the Salazar Road extension, we have a $197,000 grant match to do that project. The Estes Road extension, there's a $200,000 match, local match. Bertha Road, I believe there's a $43,000 match to that. Town Hall Drive, that's $24,000, local match. So we're using Camino Placitas and Town Hall Drive, there's another $48,000, and those are all happening this year that we've been allocating and preparing these matches for Camino de la Merced, something that's been in the works for many, many years, since before I was on the council. $176,000 match, and the Weimer Hill. So when you look at the total projects that is in the horizon here, you have a total of $5 million, of which town matches of $1.5 million. So we're leveraging these local funds to bring in these state funds, and I think it speaks volumes to how we're using our money, and still be able to say we're nearly at double the required minimum in having our reserves. So kudos to you.
Thank you guys. I mean, thank you. You guys are, leading us and telling what we need, and we tell you we'll do it, and we do it. Find it. Don't take it from anybody.
Thank you.
So it's a good team.
Okay. Thank
Awesome.
you very much.
You guys are
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we will come back with some more, another presentation on those special revenue funds. And one thing is that when Oscar did come in last year and we started doing this process, it's made me feel better that I'm not the only one that knows about the revenues, that you all are saying, okay, yes, we agree, we're going forward with this, and it's not just Marietta saying, I'm going to do this on my own. So that's one thing that I really feel comfortable and good about, that we've done this way and go forward doing it the same way next year. So,
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marietta. Thank you, Miranda.
Thank you, Miranda.
Next, we will go to item F, consideration and possible direction to staff on Taos County's proposal. Members of the council, I received a letter from county chairman, now the newly elected county chairman, on a proposal for 911 services. And before we move forward, I just wanted to bring this to your attention and get possible direction, if any, on this proposal.
Right.
Abigail, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, please. Mr. Mayor, council members, as you all are aware, we did receive a proposal from Taos County regarding the 911 services. They are proposing to create their own 911 dispatch center, and it would be on the second floor of their detention facility. They are projecting the cost to come out at about $1.4 million. They have indicated to the stakeholders that they would incur those costs. They did provide a budget figure in that letter, or the proposal, and today I did only receive a detailed expenditure summary, and it's somewhat detailed. I think it is a draft. The finance director indicated that it was a draft. Clearly the numbers still need to be worked on, and I was told that they hope to have their 911 center up and running by June 30th or beginning of the first week in July. Now, they did indicate, ironically, and I don't know how they intend on doing this. I'm sure they'll come up with something. But as far as the startup cost, they had indicated that our CAD system, which is an item that you'll be hearing tonight as well, was a system that they would hope to move away from and get a different type of CAD system. And they invited all of us to participate in their presentation from Spillman. They have received quotes from them, and they've indicated that they've come in about from anywhere from $300,000 to $400,000. But what I do think is odd is that they will be operational by June 30th, but they will not be utilizing a CAD system because they state that they don't have the funds for this. So in a nutshell, they are moving forward with creating their own 911 center. They, like the town of Taos, have been told that if we deconsolidate, we do lose any future DFA funding, and still at that they're pursuing that juncture.
Council Member Gonzalez.
Mr. Mayor, with regards to the information and, even with regards to the last few days that we've been hearing as to how in-depth the county's audit findings are, and that's why I'm interested to see exactly what their findings are. 21 is a significant number, and my question is if they move forward with $1.5 million of county taxpayer dollars to build this thing or remodel it out, where are they going to get the funds if they can't supply state and federal funds? So I think it's pertinent that the city, seriously evaluate, our situation, but with regards to whether or not there's a real possibility for the county to move forward in this endeavor without bankrupting the county citizens. It's just food for thought.
Sure. And Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Gonzalez, today I did participate in a meeting that the county held with all the stakeholders regarding this project, and they essentially said two things, and one was that they could not afford these operations if the town did not join. But a few minutes later, they did indicate that even if we didn't move in or any of the other stakeholders, they would still find whatever it took to operate their own 911 center. As difficult that may be, they might have to cut other programs, but they're willing to do so.
They're going to Vegas?
Councilmember Peralta?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I think that I think we should acknowledge to the county that we received their offer and that we are going to take it under advisement and try to analyze what this means and look at what possibilities we might have in partnering with them or not partnering with them. But this is still way too sketchy for us to make any kind of a decision or an analysis of at this point.
Councilmember Peralta, and that's what I did. I responded to a letter specifically letting them know that I would be bringing the information, be it as it may, to the council for direction if they wanted for us to continue dialogue of this proposal or send a different letter of such. So, Abigail.
Mr. Mayor, council members, one thing that I forgot to mention was that Stephen Archuleta, the county manager, did attend the meeting today and indicated that they do not intend in engaging in these operations and providing it as a contract for services to the stakeholders, that they do see it going through a JPA, and I think that's because DFA did let them know that if we are consolidated, we have to have a JPA that attests to that. So they are proposing a draft JPA to their commission on February 4th.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I guess we need to see that before we can make a decision or a response.
Absolutely. Councilmember Abita.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Additionally to that letter, Mr. Mayor, we should always let the county know in writing, just so they know where we stand. That number one, we're going to consider what they're offering, even though it's still very sketchy. But number two, there's always an open invitation to the county to work with us and collaborate with us. It's never over. We have a new dispatch command center that is robust, survivable, not in the flood zone, even though Mr. Sanchez thinks that it is. It's pretty solid, and it's interesting because the county said we're going to go do our own command center now, and they're going to spend $1.4 million, and it's going to have state-of-the-art equipment. Abigail, you just briefed us that the CAD equipment that's going to cost an additional $300,000 to $4,000 cannot be purchased by the county because they don't have the money. Otherwise, if they did have it, they'd be spending approximately $2 million of the taxpayers' dollars to set up a command center that would be located on top of a jailhouse. Think about that, folks. A command center and a dispatch center located on top of a jailhouse that could be very easily compromised. Number two, when the new judicial complex was built, the concern from the adjoining neighbors was this enlarged jailhouse in the vicinity of their neighborhood, and the answer was that the sheriff's department would be located right above that. Now we propose to move the sheriff's department to the old planning department building and put the dispatch/command center there. So it just doesn't make sense. There's not one single study to justify that that's the right place, yet they're going to do this. I would challenge the county, instead of doing that, join us in our dispatch center and instead work hard to preserve the greenbelt. Property taxes are going up dramatically from $37 to $2,600 for 15 acres of greenbelt property in the county because a property owner doesn't have cows in it or cattle or whatever the case. That's wrong. Greenbelt is greenbelt is greenbelt. If it's green, if it's irrigated from an acequia, if it's irrigated from the subsurface, it's still greenbelt. And if you need a good article to look at that, just look at last week's Taos News front page. Mr. Ted Mondragon, he's going to be forced to sell his greenbelt property, and then that greenbelt property is going to be developed by a developer, and what little bit of greenbelt is left is going to be gone. So, I mean, really, they really have it completely wrong, and they need to relook at that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Gonzalez.
one last comment. When I went to ICS, the 400 training in Orlando with the Department of Homeland Security, a gentleman by the name of John Ortega, who is the West Divisional Director for Homeland Security, had offered to come in and talk to both agencies with regards to both buildings and what an incident command center should and would truly look like and mean. I breached this subject with Commissioner Blankenhorn, and he pretty much said in a nutshell that if it had anything to do with the town, it probably wouldn't happen. I would extend that invitation back out to them again. Here's a completely unbiased opinion by somebody that's in the business, well over 35 years of Department of Homeland Security activities, former FBI agent, and now heads the entire West Coast Division for Operational Services for Homeland. And he is willing to come to Taos and resolve this issue. And it just shows to the testament and the passion of what these guys do and how they believe in the system of what an ICS should look like. And I do too. So, Mr. Mayor, I extend that invitation to them, and if you wouldn't mind extending that one more time to them as well.
Abigail, if you could take note of that. I guess my take on this, I'm very, very concerned on this this proposal that we have here, and as I was discussing with Councilmember Abeyta, when we all as a community supported the creation of this judicial complex here in our municipality in this current location, I remember there was politics involved in placing it in a remote location, and we all as a community had to unite and do what was best, and we determined that having the judicial complex here in our hub of our community was the best thing to do. And our constituents there was a big outcry on a jail complex, a jail facility being in their backyard. And the way we address that issue is ensuring them that the chief law enforcement agency of our community was going to be located on top. That set their minds to rest, and they supported it accordingly. The idea of taking your chief law enforcement agency out of the jail and placing it in a modular building that wasn't designed to house, they're going to have to leave their evidence room in that area. I'm not sure what study is dictating to them that this is the best way to go. I'm not so sure who their advisor is, and if it is the best way, then show us some documents. This idea of going upstairs only came to light about 4 weeks ago. Before they were adamant and convinced that their modular building was the way to go. Not to mention all the other dynamics that the technical issues that this is going to cause from the state. They cannot even fathom the idea that we're going to create 2 dispatch facilities in the same geographical area. The fact that we have one in Red River, the lay of the land allows for that. But to have one, there is no expert that I have spoke to that just can't fathom the idea. This has been supported since 2001. The state has supported it. So much that the state has offered, and they've asked the town, and I haven't brought this to the council because I think I know what the answer would be if it comes in the way of a formal request. In speaking to DFA, they asked me, along with the manager, if we would be amenable to binding arbitration. We said absolutely, because we know anyone with common sense knows that this is what the town has done is the way to go. Yet, I heard from Commissioner Blankenhorn and DFA that Commissioner Blankenhorn said absolutely not. If this was the discussion about the building and continuing with Kit Carson's facility, that the county would not be amenable for binding arbitration. That in itself, I think, speaks volumes of who's being reasonable here. I think the issue of the CAD system that they're thinking of buying, and we're looking at the CAD system that we've used for years, upgrading that in our next one of our agenda items. They're looking at going with a completely different CAD system. What does that mean? Even if we have two remote, two separate dispatch systems, are they going to be able to communicate with each other? I've heard that that's going to create a nightmare. And Chief, you may be able to, you've told me that they're just not compatible. So how can you have your main law enforcement agency of the municipality of a county not being able to communicate law enforcement with the county? There's so many things that have to be considered here. And they're making these decisions based on political vendettas, if you will. And I would hope that the commission would agree to this binding arbitration and truly do what is in the best interest of the community. What does this mean for town residents? I'll try to put it in perspective, what it means to a town resident. The county's proposal wants us to continue funding half. When you have a population of 35,000 people approximately in Taos County, the municipality represents about 5,000. This elected body represents the municipality. Every decision we make, we have to hold in their best interest the constituents that vote us here. The county's proposal, based on the budget, a county resident would pay on a pro rata share approximately $70 per person for access to 911. A town resident would pay, a county resident would pay approximately $10, a county resident, based on the pro rata share. A town resident would pay about $70 based on that pro rata share. Where's the equality on that? $10 for a county resident, $70 for a town resident. So that's the reason why we've been looking at this from a budgetary standpoint, not to even mention what I just mentioned here on the chaos that it would create having two dispatch facilities. So, council members, I don't know what the direction is. I think the commission has made it very clear. If it has anything to do with the building, then the talks are for naught. I think that it's an injustice to the county voters that paid for this judicial complex, and now there's excess funding. Perhaps that should be dedicated to the hospital that's in dire straits of financial support. But to use this funding, $1.4 million, not to mention the hundreds of thousands of dollars that both entities will lose, I just can't understand where that's coming from. However, I believe the town of Taos has a solid case with the state that we should not be penalized from those dollars. From those tax dollars that come back to the county on our constituents when they pay that 51 cents tax on their phone bills, we should not be penalized because we followed through with what the state supported. The $175,000 grant, the federal grant that we received from Senator Domenici. Why are we being penalized? Because we followed through on what they supported. So I think that that's going to be the conversation that we're going to have with the state if the county chooses to go in this direction. So, council members, I don't know what this is for possible direction as to where do we go from here. I guess we would just let them propose a joint powers agreement or something that we can vote on. Is that what the direction is? Just to wait to hear from them?
Yeah, we need to see more detail as to what they're going to do or what they want us to respond to.
Okay.
Is there specific details that we're awaiting aside from the JPA, or just wait for the JPA and take it from there?
I guess at this point we would just see what the JPA looks like, and then we would begin begin the circle of negotiations again, if you will. But at this point, we need to really look at how we're operating our 911, and you'll see some items on the later on the agenda to for the appointment of a director. The time has come where we need to appoint a director so that we can move forward on our command center.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Silva.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, like was said earlier, I think any communications needs to be in the form of writing. I would request that maybe based on DFA's recommendation that binding arbitration, that we move towards that method of resolve. I would like to see that we send them a notice to that effect, that we're requesting, based on the recommendation of DFA, binding arbitration.
I fully would support that. Is that something that we want to send council members?
Yep.
Okay. And the state is willing to facilitate that, so. Okay.
With, if I may add, with a response, with a time-specific response.
Yeah. And I would also, just for the record, just make very clear that the town is still very, very much interested in the county foregoing their intent to create another dispatch and entering into negotiations with the town in continuing this long partnership that we've had for many years. Okay. Is that it from the council?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. And then we'll move on to the next item. The town manager will request, item G, the town manager will request direction from the council on the appointment of a director of the Emergency Communications Center. Abigail.
Mr. Mayor, council members, a few months ago, Oscar spoke about the need to hire a 911 director for our operations, and the direction at the time from the council was to pursue this and move forward with the hiring of that individual. We have taken this to the stakeholders as well. They agree that a director is needed. We also presented it out of courtesy to the county commission, and they essentially indicated that a 911 director was needed, but that because the town of Taos was a fiscal agent, that we should just proceed however we saw fit. A couple of weeks ago, I did conduct some interviews. In that interview panel was Chief David Weaver. We had the 911 director for Santa Fe County and the city of Santa Fe, and also DPS director for Ski Valley, Dave Wallace, and Mr. Morris sat in as the neutral party, and just to observe the interviews. We interviewed about 6 applicants. We do have an individual that I would like to recommend, and proposing for the individual salary to be in the upper 50s to fall in line with what the majority of our directors make, because this position, if you will, create some uncertainty, and this was asked by several of the applicants. They are asking what incentives do we have to bring them here, seeing that there is just, I guess, some disarray amongst the, or between the town of Taos and Taos County. And so Oscar and I did discuss it, and we thought that it would be appropriate to offer the housing or the manufactured home that's located on 501 Sunset Park. It's been done in the past. Seeing that we can't offer the individual a severance package because it doesn't fall in line with our ordinance, that's basically the recommendation that we're making, is that we be able to proceed with formally offering this position to this employee so that they can come on board as soon as possible.
Okay. What is the council? Any questions, comments? Abigail, has this person had this type of experience before?
Oh, yes, Mayor. Sorry. Something very important to cover is, yes, this individual has a degree, and she has been in dispatch for many, many years. I think it's about a decade long. And she's really looking at advancing her career, and she seems to have really sought us out, and she's looking for this type of opportunity where she comes and makes a name for herself and comes in as a reformer, if you will, and turn things around, and hopefully gets the buy-in of Taos County as well.
Okay.
Abby, Mr. Mayor, With this individual, I know we talked about when we were looking at, hiring an executive director and moving this out of the purview of under the chief or just an individual that worked with dispatch. Will this individual be able to handle the communications aspect of it as well with regards to radio communications and what it means as an integral part of our dispatch?
Yes, I do believe that she possesses those skills, and she asked a lot of good questions during or after her interview had concluded, and she was really surprised that we weren't EMD certified, and that a lot of that we even offered bilingual training for our dispatchers, considering the area that we're located. So I do think that she'd be good for this position.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Silva.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Abigail, has any thought been given to the fact that if in the event the county does move in the direction that they've intended or notified us that they want to move in, and that the town ultimately ends up just providing services within the corporate limits, and I'm not sure what that's going to do to the amount of dispatchers that are going to be needed at that point, and if for some reason we have a reduction in force because of the need not being there, can this person be assigned other duties going in as part of her job description? And that way, she's just, we can utilize her time better.
Yes, that's been discussed, and that would be the intent.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
Mr. Mayor, I say we move forward.
I'll second it, Mr. Mayor.
Motion and a second. Under discussion, Chief, since you're the expert, how did you feel on the interview process?
He loved it.
Council members, I believe Mrs. Robbie did an excellent job of recruiting candidates. The lady who came out top, I was completely impressed with, and when she left, I told everybody, that's the one. So I really think this would be a very, very good one.
Within seconds, he said that. I'm like,
Okay.
let him leave.
Great. Okay, great. Thank you. All right, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries. Okay, next we will go to the chief request for council direction in regards to the upgrade of the records management system and the computer-aided dispatch system for the Taos Police Department Emergency Communication Center. Chief, welcome.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Ms. Dami, this was started by my predecessor, Chief Koch, and when we talk about CAD, this computer-aided dispatch, we talk RMS, that's the records management system. The dispatch center and the police department is currently on Sleuth, and so what is happening is that we are on Sleuth version 9, and Chief Koch set aside $21,110 so we could upgrade to version 10. The reason for the upgrade to version 10 is because version 9, Sleuth is going to stop supporting that here in the future. It just kind of made standard good business sense to do the upgrade. As we began moving towards that, we discovered that the dispatch center is also under Sleuth version 9. If we upgraded the RMS to version 10, but not the CAD, we would lose a certain amount of connectivity. The way that this works is when the dispatcher receives a call, they actually enter the initial call into the CAD system. That controls all the dispatching for it. And then the RMS actually mines information off the CAD, and we continue the process in the records management. If we did not upgrade both systems, then we would lose that capability. So we moved and got a quote to upgrade the dispatch center as well. Then the county began the separation conversation about the dispatch. And so at that point in time, I felt, along with other members, we felt that it would be premature for us to go forward with the upgrade because they didn't know what was going to happen with the county and with the city. The counties began the process of wanting to go to Spillman and talk about going to Spillman. I have some concerns about changing RMSs. One is the amount of data that we'll lose. In the Sleuth system currently, we have in just the name categories, we have approximately 70,000 entries. And so even though Spillman and Sleuth would attempt to make that transfer smooth, we would still lose data. The second concern that I have is that in order for, I guess let me tell you what my original idea was. My original idea was for the police department to upgrade version 10, the dispatch center to upgrade to version 10. We had a quote from Sleuth where the jail would be able to upgrade as well, and we had their upgrade at approximately $20,000, of which Mr. Rodriguez was able to find the money inside the dispatch move to pay for that. We also got a quote for them to reinstall Sleuth in the Sheriff's Department for approximately $60,000. And then if that worked out, I was going to talk to Chief Left Hand from Tribal, because they are also on Sleuth. And my overall idea was for us to be able to mine data from each organization. This would fit in nicely with our goal of making the police department a data-driven organization, for us to be able to capture as much information as we can, for us to work hand in hand with adjoining agencies, and for us to actually be able to develop a team approach to tracking crime information, tracking dates, times, locations, and being able to actually forecast the best manpower utilization for our agencies. That was my original plan, and that has fallen apart. Their idea, the county's idea was for us to move to Spillman, and just for us to move to Spillman, their quote was approximately $250,000 just for the police department. And I've yet to get a solid answer from the county as to where they would expect that money to come from. I certainly do not have that in my budget.
Let me ask, Mr. Mayor, if I could, just for clarification,
yes, sir.
Chief, the 250 was for everybody?
No, sir.
Per?
Just the police department.
No, but I mean, it was 250 for the county and 250 for the town, or is it one system that everybody uses?
250 for the town.
Yeah, that is solely for the town. So for the Taos Police Department, for us to install Spillman, the quote is $2,422,960, and that is only the police department.
And that's separate from what we'll be having at the command center?
That would be correct. So I don't know what their estimates were for moving Spillman in the dispatch, and I do not know what that is. I just know for the police department, it's $242,000.
Okay.
I'm frustrated, and the reason I'm frustrated is because I see so much potential for our police department to really be able to really start tracking information and really move ourselves into a good technology base, and for us to be able to really start putting a handle on where we have problems and when we have problems. With the version that we're in right now, there are a couple of training issues that my department has. The department was trained in 2006 on Sleuth, and then the training has degraded over the years, and that is our fault. So that's caused a couple of problems for me. As a for instance, last week I pulled 42 reports, and those were the reports just in a 4 or 5 day period. And from that, I found that there was only 6 reports that were actually correct as far as different elements were missing. Some of the elements were for a burglary. We have a section that talks about the time frame of when the burglary could have occurred, and officers are neglecting to do that. From the description to the description of the crime, to whether force and oath of force was used in the burglary. And so we've gotten to the point that we have officers doing different items with the Sleuth. And that really is a training issue. With the version 10, we would get training, so I'd be able to get the whole department back on one sheet of paper again. That's one plus to this. The second thing is the version 10 allows us to manipulate data. It allows me to gather more data. The Sleuth actually did a really good job about listening to their clients, and part of the criticism from version 9 is that it's difficult to pull the data out that I need to evaluate. So with the CAD and with the RMS, they've actually addressed that. The other thing with the version 10, as far as the police department goes, administratively, it gives me some more tools. I have better inventory control. I have control over vehicles. We can actually import the department units so we can actually better track their usage. Into the inventory control, it gives us a better capability of doing inventory control. It allows the officers to actually print out barcodes and attach the barcodes. Quite honestly, there's so many different things that come inside version 10. I really don't believe we'll be able to use all of them. As far as pawn tickets, it allows us the ability to import pawn tickets. Also, the system allows us to more readily export information. For instance, to the district attorney's office, we'll be able to convert reports into different formats. We can attach media to it. There's a number of issues we can resolve that way, as well as it also has an ability for us to redact reports. Right now, when we release reports, we have to redact it by hand. It's always been a sticking point for me. This actually has the capability of doing that better. So that really is kind of the Reader's Digest of this. For the police department to be $21,110, that money is already parked in our budget. It has been since last fiscal year, and the money is there. The possible downside to this is right now I am really urging the council to allow me to upgrade that system. If next week something magically happens and the council and the county are able to unite and create something and we actually get Spillman, then the argument is that I have wasted $21,000. Right as it stands right now, I don't see that happening. Of course, that's up to the council and the commission to figure that out. I just know that I am trying to move the department into a position where we can better serve our constituents. And I really believe this is a good decision for us to make.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Chief, I know you and I discussed this whole CAD option a while back, and Councilor Peralta and myself were at the Spillman Technologies briefing at the county, and that was one of the biggest concerns that I had was how much, and even Spillman couldn't say how much data actually would be lost. And, you know, for me, it's a huge thing to say, well, for the last 10, 15 years, however long we've been using Sleuth, this data has been continually evolving, and you guys have continually updated, even with multiple offenses on one individual. Correct. So my question was if we go to Spillman and this data is not in there, and they encounter an individual dispatch and law enforcement encounter an individual whose, you know, profile hasn't been updated, you guys don't know what you're walking into.
That's correct.
And my biggest fear with that is not only officer safety, but I look for public safety also. And you know, again, that large price tag is something that, you know, even myself here looking at the city, even if they went to that system, how would we be able to digest that? You know, it's just, right now, Mr. Mayor, looks completely unattainable, and I think it only makes sense because the department, yourself, your officers, even our own dispatch has been accustomed to using the Sleuth system. And, you know, from what I've been able to see off Sleuth 10, it does a lot of the same features that Spillman does.
Yes, sir.
And so I would urge, Mr. Mayor, that with regards just to the public safety aspect and what we stand to lose, not only as a city but as a dispatch but as a police department with all this data, I mean, we have a responsibility to our constituents because several of them have come to us and said, well, how do you know what's trending? What's plaguing you? What's bothering the city? How do you know where to exert forces? How do you know to allocate funds? What are you guys up to? And without, you know, the proper data, and that's one thing I've always relied on, is to say, I need data. I need something to see what, you know, does crime go up in the summer and why? You know, these are all unanswered questions. And I think to roll the dice, you know, on a system that, you know, yeah, it may be really good, but it's only going to be as good as those that are entering the information into it. So I would urge, Mr. Mayor, that and my fellow councilors, that we allow the chief to go through with looking into the upgrade, because at the end of the day, I still don't think that anybody can really afford Spillman's unless they drastically cut cost.
Councilmember Peralta.
Is version 10 the latest and greatest?
With Sleuth, yes, sir.
Okay. So there's not an 11 or a 12 out
No,
there?
sir, there's not.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we're getting top of the line instead of
This
stepping 3 years behind the times.
Exactly, no. And then the other thing I kind of want to point out is that in dealing with Sleuth and talking to Sleuth, I've been talking to the regional sales manager, and one of the conversations that I had with him was that we're going to have the initial training, but they also wanted a online module so we could continue the training, not have the degradation of the training. So we began talking about that, and the salesman said, well, hang on a second. And then before I knew it, the CEO of Sleuth was on the phone with us. We had a three-way conversation, and we began talking about that. And I was really impressed with their whole approach to us, which was they were saying, what do we need, and what can we better do to serve our community? So I believe Commissioner Gonzalez hit this right on the nail, right on the head. We need data. I need to be able to be confident in the data and be able to manipulate it so we can see where we need to put our peoples. So I think this is a good choice.
Okay. So my question to you, Abigail, is does that $21,000 include the command center? How much is to upgrade that one?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Peralta, it's 17,000. It's above 17,000, close to $18,000.
So together it's about $40,000 to upgrade both?
Yes, and we also have the monies from it. Would be taking it from our capital, which was the relocation costs, and we would need, if police goes, we have to move forward, or else we will not be able to communicate.
Excuse me. In the sheriff's office, are they using Sleuth now?
No, sir, they're not. They were, and then they dropped it a couple years ago. I believe the record management system right now is ITS. I wouldn't quite feel comfortable getting myself quoted, but that's where they're at now.
Will this system capture data from fire department and EMS?
It actually will. The Sleuth 10 actually has an ability to tie into the firehouse, and currently right now I believe the fire department is separate, and so we'll actually be able to integrate them in there as well. And the EMS depends upon where the county goes with this, because I know the ambulance service is dispatched off with South Repeater, and I don't know where the ambulance would go. Now the CAD portion of this is really kind of interesting. When we talk about officer safety, as the dispatchers are entering information in, the system is constantly doing background checks. It's really kind of interesting. So whatever the call may be, it checks the names, it checks the address, it checks the vehicles. So this does do safety for EMS as well, because many times ambulance services get dispatched to a location without law enforcement support, thinking it's a simple medical call, but in this background running, we actually may find that this home has a history of domestic violence, whatever it may be, so initiate a law enforcement response as well. That being said, EMS is ran underneath the county, and I don't know how the ambulance service would be dispatched. If they went through the upgrade Sleuth, we would be able to help them capture some of that information.
Yeah, I'm not really too much interested in the future. I'm really looking at saying what is it today, and in order for us to be able to do best we can today with all the services that we integrate with is important. So
yes, sir.
We need to have the best we can and support until something else happens. We need to support the other agencies that we deal with.
Absolutely. So as it stands right now, if we upgrade CAD and our RMS, when the call goes inside CAD, those background checks are happening. So if the Sheriff's Department, or if we're dispatching for the Sheriff's Department, EMS, whatever it may be, that is a service that they will be getting. Will kind of enhance dispatching capabilities.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks,
Appreciate
sir.
it.
And Red River already uses the Sleuth version 10.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
Mr. Mayor, I think we need to move forward to upgrade our equipment. Okay. It's more important that we be updated and upgraded no matter what may happen in the future.
Is that a motion?
Form of a motion?
So move. Second.
Second.
I was gonna
Motion,
second.
motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you. Okay, next we will go to item I, departmental monthly performance reports for information purposes and possible discussion.
Mr. Mayor, council members, we have a few of the departmental monthly performance reports attached, and they're just for informational purposes. You've had an opportunity to review those, and essentially we have most of the department heads here, and we stand for any questions you may have.
Any questions, comments?
We'll see you, Councilor.
Questions? Not, or any discussion? If not, we'll go to item A, Ordinance 1404 regarding governance and personnel code. Consideration and possible approval of Ordinance 1404 amending the Ordinance 1309 regarding certain aspects of the governance and personnel code of the town of Taos. Abigail, who is taking the lead on this one?
That would be Mr. Brian James.
Okay, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an item that I get reminded about every time I go to the Municipal League, Municipal Attorneys meeting. Recently, towards the end of last summer, issued a Judicial Compensation Commission report. This was the Legislative Finance Committee. It's essentially about state judges and their salaries. The only salaries that, for any judge that the town has any influence over is the municipal court judge. Since the Judicial Compensation Commission report indicates that judges across New Mexico are the lowest paid in the region and among the lowest paid in the country, the recommendation was to increase those salaries. So the object of this exercise is to ask council if council is interested in reviewing the existing salary structure. I don't believe it's been reviewed for a substantial period of time. The recommendation from the town attorney's office is an upward movement in the starting salary. I need some guidance on whether the council would be interested in continuing the current code provision that allows for a longevity salary for some reason after 3 terms in office. Anyway, where I came down was to suggest to council that perhaps the town's hourly pay plan, pay grade 31, would be an appropriate place to put the municipal court judge salary. Just by way of example, the minimum in that range is $23.68 an hour. Comes out at $49,254. Currently, our starting salary for the municipal court judge is $39,999. And then as the pay band progresses, the salary goes up. Now, when you're talking about judge salaries, you try to build in raises for them that don't have to be voted on during their term, and you try to insulate them from decreases in salary so that if they make an unpopular decision, they're not penalized by having their pay substantially decreased. So with that, I took a shot at a draft of an ordinance that would incorporate salary band 31. I would need some guidance as to where to put the incumbent judge, because he has a long history of service in the community. I was recommending, based on a rather arcane set of calculations, that perhaps salary band 14 would be appropriate, which would make the incumbent judge's salary $72,342. Now, we don't have to do this tonight if council wants to consider this some more, but if we're going to have a pay raise that's effective for the judge that will be seated after the next election, it has to be done before that election takes place. So this is why it's before council tonight. There's no mandate from anyone that the council revisit this. Council could leave the salaries where they were. I just thought it was appropriate to bring to the attention of the council this Compensation Commission report, if the council was inclined to take action, so that it would take effect with the next election.
Councilmember Peralta.
Brian, if I could just ask kind of a simple question. And I believe within the current ordinance, the judge gets an automatic pay increase depending upon if any other employee gets an increase, correct?
Yes.
The current
Yes.
sitting judge. So could there be a possibility for us to build into this base a similar sort of increase that's automatic for a new judge coming in, to say that if every year your base is, let's say now it's 39,000, and then if there's an increase of 3% for all employees, that goes 3% above that as a starting salary for a new judge coming in, and then every year that would increase right along with the current sitting judge. And I'm not talking about what you're talking about as a starting base, but I'm just looking at it from current statute or current ordinance.
Currently, what the ordinance provides is a base salary, and then if there's 3 consecutive terms, goes to a longevity salary, which is not terribly higher, but somewhat higher. The only consternation I had with this is I didn't know what to do with exactly what you're talking about, the escalation. Because in the current scenario, I don't think I'm not sure when the sitting judge last got a raise, but it hasn't been since 2009, obviously, since no one has gotten one. So I didn't know whether the town was going to sort of go back in the payroll plan to recognizing the steps on an annual basis or a biannual basis, which would be one way to provide an increase, or the other way would be what Councilman Peralta has just suggested, which is you just start with the base, and if the regular employees get an increase, that would be passed along to the judge as well. So I didn't know whether, I still actually don't know what we do with these steps in our payroll plan. I don't know how you get from step 1 to step 2.
I don't either. I'm just trying to think out loud.
Well, that's essentially what I'm doing too. I don't know. See, if we did the steps, then there would be an increase because the steps increase. But if we're not going to do a step increase, then the alternative would be exactly what you suggested, which would be if the majority of the employees get a raise, whatever that percentage would be passed along to the municipal court judge.
But it's basically passed on now, though, to the sitting judge, correct?
Yes.
And all I'm trying to say is in order to keep the new judge, a beginning judge, in line with, the market in a sense, that if we change this to not have to look at it every 10 years and make an increase, but that it become automatic every year, then we wouldn't be in the situation where that beginning judge's salary may be totally out of line.
No, and then that's essentially what we've been doing. The problem is that over the last decade or 12 years, there just hasn't been any regular cost of living for the regular employees. Therefore, there hasn't been any for the judge, so he's kind of stuck. Anyway, we're falling. The result of that is that for our initial starting pay seems to be substantially under market.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Judge, do you have any comments, questions? Welcome to our meeting, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members.
How are you, Judge?
I'll compliment you for your presentation a little while ago, where you said that you were probably going to give all employees a 3% raise. Whereas this raise that we're talking about now, the increase for the starting salary would probably be about 24%. For me, right now, a raise of approximately, What did you say, $72,000?
Yeah, pay band 14 would be 72,342.
Okay, that's a pay raise of about $6,000, which would probably be about a 10-15% raise. I don't think you should go with this, okay, with any of it, simply because I get paid by the town, as does every other employee. I think 178 employees, something like that. And I don't think it's fair that I get a $6,000-7,000 raise right now when the town employees aren't getting anything. So therefore, I humbly request that you not approve this raise for me, okay? I don't want it, because when you give the employees a 3% raise, if you want to give me a 3% raise, fine. And you might think I'm crazy, because who doesn't want $6,000? Who doesn't want $7,000? Sure, I'd like to have it, but I don't want to. I remember a couple of years ago when our former manager got a $20,000 raise, I think it was. I'm the one that raised all kinds of hell for it, okay? I don't want to accept a raise now without the employees getting a raise, the town employees getting a raise, because I don't want to be a hypocrite, okay? And I'm afraid that if I would accept a raise now, majority of the employees would say, oh, that's how he's nothing but a damn hypocrite. And I'm not a hypocrite. I will not, I refuse to accept this raise. I think it puzzles me as to why the base salary is being raised at this time. I mean, why wasn't it raised 3-4 years ago? Why now? Is it because of the election? I mean, I don't know. It just puzzles me. And Mr. Cordova, you and I met a couple of weeks ago, and we discussed this race. And you had told me that you had checked with municipal judges all over the state, and that, in fact, your comment to me was that I was underpaid, and the average salary was in the mid-70s, which was to me $75,000. But I was real happy at the time that I was going to get a $10,000 raise. I was real happy at the time. But after several sleepless nights thinking about it, I decided that, you know what, Dickie, if you accept this raise, you're nothing but a hypocrite. So therefore, gentlemen, I would really ask you to vote no on my raise, and vote no on the salary increase for the base salary also. I mean, hey, increase the base salary, but by 24%. I mean, when I started working as a judge, I made $22,000. Yeah, I'm making $64,000 now, but it took me 24 years to get up there. So I ask you to vote no on this issue tonight, okay? It's up to you, whatever you want. But I tell you that, again, if you vote yes on my raise anyway, I won't accept it. I mean, I won't accept it, okay? Thank you very much.
Just a real comment. I just want to, I just don't want to make it this got on the agenda based on our conversation that we talked about. And you brought up a valid concern that you felt that you were underpaid based on other judges out there. And that's specifically why I put it on there for the town attorney to evaluate that. And he found out that I think throughout the state it was right around 6 figures, I believe. So this was an attempt to try to be a little bit more in that, but this really was stemmed from the request that you had made to evaluate that. And I understand that you're factoring other things in there, but this was basically done at your request.
Well, the thing is, I asked for a raise 2-3 years ago.
Sure.
Why?
Well, 2 or 3 was, and the only reason the only way we can give a judge an increase, according to what we found out, is that before the election.
Nevertheless,
yeah.
Nevertheless, I refuse that raise. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Silva.
Your Honor, I just want to say thank you. You're to be commended, especially for keeping the employees in mind. And I can appreciate where you're coming from. You're not wanting that raise because they haven't gotten one, and I can appreciate your comments.
And let me also tell you about a 3% raise, okay? Let me tell you what I think about percentages. I think percentages is very unfair. Let me tell you why. I make $60,000 a year. There's employees down there that make, let's say, $30,000 a year. A 3% raise will give me $1,800 a year. A 3% raise will give them $900 a year. What I'd like to do is, what I'd like you to do is, how much money do you have to give raises this year? 200,000, 300,000, I don't know what it is, okay? Okay, take that amount. Instead of giving 3% raise to everybody, take that amount and divide it equally by 175 employees. That way, every employee gets $1,000, $1,500, $500, whatever it is, okay? And let me tell you why. Because when I go to Albertsons and I buy a loaf of bread, the checker at Albertsons is not going to say, hey man, here's Dickie Chavez, he makes $60,000 a year. I'm going to charge him $5 for this loaf of bread. But here's John Doe, he makes only $20,000 a year. I'm going to charge him $1 a loaf, $1 for that loaf. I mean, we pay the same price for that loaf of bread. And percentage raises, what it does is, you were talking about closing the gap a little while ago. Percentage raises, what a percentage raise does is just open up that gap, make it wider and wider and wider. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. So I would recommend to you that you take that money that you have and divide it equally among the number of employees that you have. That way everybody gets the same. Nobody feels that they've been messed up. Right now the morale in the town is pretty low. I think that would be one heck of a morale booster. That everybody gets the same. Not have, well, like I say, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, okay? So,
thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Judge, I want to thank you for approaching us, and I think it's an extremely admirable thing that you do, especially with regards to the fact that there's some money on the table for you to be had there. And I think it is appropriate, and my advice would be is that, the incremental raise that you would get would be the same that our town employees would get at the same time. And I wholeheartedly agree. It's been way too long since they've had an increase. And will dividing 200,000 amongst 178 employees be enough? Probably not. I mean, we've all been in the employment field where it always feels like the raise you get, based if it's capped or it's an actual whole dollar amount, still seems like it's not enough. But this council has always been prudent to the fact that and me for one is saying if we calculate an ongoing raise regardless of who it's for, this is ongoing. This is permanent. This isn't money that just goes for 1 year. It's not a bonus. This is ongoing funds. And so for me, it's wanting to make sure that, we don't insult employees at the same time of giving them nothing, for their efforts. I think every little bit helps. But I would want to see, something that makes a significant, impact in their lives. Not to say that, a little amount won't help them as well. But, for me, it's an extremely admirable thing to hear you say that, especially coming from the other side of the table where you stand to benefit. And I appreciate that from you. So thank you, Judge.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilmember Peralta.
Thank you, Judge. I appreciate very much what you're saying, and I understand totally what you're talking about. There's a certain amount of equality that we have to look at when we're talking about what we do with employees, in the sense of trying to do what we can to ensure that they are where they're supposed to be in their earning scale. And I think that's something that the council is going to take into consideration in the upcoming thing. In looking at this again, Mr. Mayor and council members, I think we need to take it back to the drawing board, because I see some things in here that I don't know if they were meant this way or not, but the way I look at them, it's almost automatic for a sitting judge to get a raise even if employees don't get it. And so I want to look at that again. I don't think that's the intent, but it seems to be the way I read the language. So, but I truly think that we will take to heart your concern and your consideration and your appeal to the council tonight, and in looking at this thing to ensure that we do the proper thing for all employees, including yourself.
Thank you. And
Thank
don't
you,
get me
Judge.
wrong, when you give that 3% to the employees, I want it to, okay? But not now when they don't get anything, okay?
That's right.
Whatever they get, I want.
And this has been something that I've been dealing with ever since I became mayor, as far as some ambiguity as to how things have worked in the past. I remember you telling me every time you got elected, you got a $5,000 increase to your salary. And I remember one time when I presented that to the attorney, he put the brakes on it and said, well, we can't do that, but that had been a tradition. And I guess that's how you've been able to get that.
And Mr. Mayor, that when we did that, that was about 2 years ago.
Sure, yeah.
When I asked for that raise, I knew I wasn't going to get it.
It was 4 years ago, upon your election.
4 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. I knew I wasn't going to get it because I knew the rule.
But you got it previously, though?
I'm sorry?
But you got it in previous years, or were you able to get it in previous years? Did you?
Not 5,000.
Yeah, because I think that's what you had mentioned to me. And now because I remember when you said that that's what you had always gotten in previous years, and that's when I went to the. So I think it does need to be cleaned up so that everybody has a clear understanding of it as to what that amount is.
Okay. Well, again, right now, the amount should be 0 right now, okay?
Yeah.
I don't want anything.
Okay.
And again, when and if and when you give the employees that 3% raise, I'd appreciate it if you give it to me.
Yeah. Okay.
And whatever the employees get, hey, give me, and I'll be satisfied with that. But I won't, I can't, with good conscience, accept this, okay?
Sure.
And I'm not, thank you. Thank you for wanting to give me a $7,000, $8,000 raise. Thank you.
Well, and I just want to make sure that, the perception isn't that we are, this came as on your request for us to evaluate.
I'll make it clear.
Yeah.
I'll make it clear. I do not want you to give me a raise.
Sure, okay, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Judge. Okay, thank you. Okay, so what do we do with this, gentlemen?
Let's take it under advisement at this time, Mayor.
Should we?
I would like to relook at this language, and I'll get together with our attorney and talk about it a little more.
Table it, continue it?
If the council is inclined to change it and have it effective, we're going to have to table it, because I don't have time to re-advertise it before the election and have any discussion about it. So I would, if council's inclined to make an adjustment, I would recommend that we continue this hearing to the next meeting, and I guess under the current scenario, if we put our existing judge at salary step 11 instead of 14, then that would meet his request not to have an increase. So that would leave the unresolved issue is whether there's going to be longevity pay and then how to get to that.
Okay. So table it till our regular meeting of February 11th. Is that when our next meeting is?
Yes.
Continue it, I'm sorry.
Continue, yes.
Yeah. So
That is the next meeting, Mr. Mayor.
is that the pleasure of the council?
Motion to continue, Mr. Mayor.
Till February 11th? Is there a
Till
second?
February 11th, yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Right.
Those opposed, motion carries. Okay?
Thanks, Judge.
Thank you, Judge. Okay. Next, we will go to College for America program, consideration and possible direction to staff for College of America program. Councilmember Gonzalez on the hot seat.
Get to be on this side of the hot seat. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, fellow councilors, listening audience. This was something that was brought up at one of the NALEO trainings that I went through, and what it is, it's called College for America. It was an initiative brought forth by the Department of Education along with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for Higher Education. And what it is it's, you can read on the slide, it's a breakthrough approach to college for a new American workforce, accessible, affordable, and relevant. And what it is, it's geared extremely well to the working class that already exists and individuals that maybe don't fit well in a traditional classroom setting, but still want to attain some type of a degree. So College for America, again, is designed for working adults, for those that have workforce challenges. So it's based out of Southern New Hampshire University. This was something that I had brought up to the University of New Mexico through the ex-dean, Mr. Gilroy, James Gilroy, and he reviewed the model and he was extremely fond of it, and he said he would bring it up to the University of New Mexico as well. The only tie to this College for America is that it is based through some type of an employment organization, which the town of Taos fits the bill extremely well. And it provides the opportunity for our employees to earn an accredited college degree at a fraction of the cost of what a traditional university would be. It's $2,500 for an associate's or bachelor's degree, depending on how fast you finish the program. And the beauty of the program is that because it is accredited and it is sponsored by the Department of Education, it is financial aid assistance available. Go ahead, Abby.
Councilmember Gonzalez, is this for a semester or for that pays for the entire degree?
Pays for the entire degree, which is extremely, extremely amazing considering. And what it is, it's an associate's or bachelor's degree associated towards business. And you know, one of the greatest things about it is you know, it's endorsed by President Barack Obama under the educational initiative, again, within organizations that where a majority of their workforce is non-degreed. It gives them that opportunity to rise to the next level. And I think for us as electeds, as management, it gives us the ability to gauge the desire, the want of our employees as well too, because it's there, and it's there in an affordable option. So the way they are looking at it, and Southern New Hampshire University has looked at it, is aside from the model of financial aid, is to have some type of incentive by the governing body or the organization, whoever takes this on, for tuition reimbursement, and done in a sense where it's payable after the completion. So I think it's a win-win for the city. So again, associate degree in general studies with a business emphasis, low cost is $2,500 per year, all inclusive. It's flexible, online, self-paced, and self-directed. It's focused on 120 competencies, not courses, learning based on mastery, not passing. So the workforce challenges that, you know, again, that we would have is a lack of strong in-house talent pool, non-degreed workers with essential leadership skills or gaps, lowering turnover rates, misalignment between what colleges teach and what employers say they need, lack of clear evidence about what college graduates can actually do, and of course the underlying bottom line is the high cost and price of higher education. So this competency-based model is students build personal and professional skills rather than credit hours and grade points. And what they learn out of the program is they can negotiate with others to resolve conflicts and settle disputes, can work with others to accomplish a task, can speak effectively in order to persuade or motivate, can generate a variety of approaches to addressing a problem, can plan, organize work, including a setting and meeting deadlines, can convey information by creating charts and graphs. So there's 9 competency degree categories: foundation skills, which is communication skills, creative thinking, quantitative skills, digital fluency, and information literacy. Personal skills are personal effectiveness, ethics and social responsibility, teamwork and collaboration. And the content knowledge is business essentials, science, society, and culture. So this is an assessment of how Southern New Hampshire University or College for America, they assess the mastery. What they do is the primary form of assessments is completion of 20 goals through projects. Students can revise and resubmit projects until they demonstrate mastery. There is no failure. And trained reviewers provide feedback within 48 hours. So each individual student would receive a college coach, for example, as opposed to like an advisor that would help them through the program, help them through the process. So the goals is to access information, analyze data, apply economic theories, build teamwork through marketing, chart the evolution of media, confront culture, consider the environment, decode media, develop a budget, establish a professional presence, evaluate popular psychology, examine ethical perspective, experience art, experience with psychology, exploring writing, investigate business ethics, leverage business tools, manage people, plan for success, and solve problems. So again, their platform is self-paced based. They have up to 2 years to finish. Again, if they finish within 6 months, that's the pro rata. They finish at that rate as opposed to being billed the full $2,500. So if they finish in a year, it's $1,250. So it's an amazing, amazing program. And again, I would hope that the University of New Mexico would jump on board to this because for me, being a ex-University of New Mexico grad myself, it's hard to see that other universities, especially online universities, are taking this approach as opposed to the online approach, which is mine in your era, Abby. I'm sorry, but it's completely online and technical based. It's not so much in the classroom anymore. So there is a student support network, as mentioned. You have the coach, account partner, peers, reviewer, mentors, and of course us as the employer. So becoming a partner, so the tuition best practice partners guarantee enrollment via scholarships. Some offer tuition assistance. That's where we would come in if we do a tuition assistance in saying we'll pay half or a third, whatever the case may be. So $1,250 for a 6-month term or $2,500 for the year. Account manager assigned to each partner for support. Enrollment begins on the first of each month. So it wouldn't be like an enrollment base where you're waiting till the fall, spring, summer. You're able to do this on a month-by-month basis. These are some of the companies that have already signed up with College for America. One is Anthem, Blue Cross Blue Shield, McDonald's, the City of Memphis, Goodwill Industries, and there's an array of many others. So our next step would be is to whether or not the council, along with the mayor, and staff would allow for our employees to start engaging in the program. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring it before council, was to get approval for it and allow us the opportunity and allow staff the opportunity to go over, I guess, just some of the ways that we could partner with our employees in offering this as part of the package, I guess. I think it's always beneficial when, employers do tuition reimbursement, but the biggest thing is at what level and how much will this cost, once it's all said and done. So this offers a great opportunity, and if I may, Mayor, I'd like to read a letter from Jim Gilroy, who is the retired dean at UNM-Taos, and he states, College for America. He said, Councilmember Andrew Gonzalez and I have been meeting recently to determine how to best coordinate educational resources with workplace educational needs for employees of the town of Taos and the county. In our last meeting, Councilman Gonzalez presented the College for America program as a viable and cost-effective resource. After reviewing this program at the Southern New Hampshire University, an accredited institution, I believe that it offers a low-cost educational opportunity for working individuals. As the document states, it is to help promising employees who do not have a college degree. The self-paced, competency-based program is built for non-traditional students with the goal of building employee skills, retention, career pathways, and organization morale. It is an educational model that builds personal and professional skills rather than credit hours and grade points. After reviewing the programmatic goals on their website, I found the program to be based on foundation skills critical for an employee's effectiveness in the workplace. The College for America also recognizes and gives credit for past experience and demonstrates mastery. This is important for employers who have worked hard for years and have a proven success record in their job. I encourage the mayor and town council to seriously consider this innovative educational initiative. It will not only improve the current workforce of our town and community, but also provide an example for the next generation. For my part, I am willing to consult with the leadership of the University of New Mexico-Taos and the University of New Mexico main campus to see the possibility of offering the College for America program through our own university. You can count on my support to help expand educational opportunities for the hardworking citizens of town and our county. Sincerely, Jim Gilroy, retired Dean of UNM students.
Great.
So,
any comments, questions? Councilmember Peralta?
If we were to institute this program and, it's what, $2,500 a year, and how do you see the town participating in that from your perspective? And I realize it's just your thoughts on this, as far as how we would offer this to our employees and what kind of a budget you're looking at, because if we're going to either half or a quarter or whatever it is to pay for this, what kind of a budget are we looking at? And secondly, what happens if they don't complete? Is there a payback? I mean, what kind of incentive or disincentive do we create so that they don't drop out of the program?
So I guess some of the thoughts that I have with regards to this would be that, the city, start an educational fund, one that allows for our employees to go through the program regardless of how we decide to fund it, $650 versus, of the $2,500 or 50-50. Or, there's also the option of the financial aid assistance. I would say that it's payable upon completion. I mean, as far as the enrollee themselves, I mean, it's like any other university. I mean, you pay and you don't play, you're not going to get your money back. So I think a lot of it has to be, incentive out of the employee too, to not start something that they don't finish. And when you look at it, one of the program models, and one thing that we studied in business was that when employers look at applications for individuals, they're not really so much looking at, and it plays some role of the fact that the employee is educated, possesses the degree that the field requires, but beyond that, it shows the employer whether or not the employee has the ability to complete tasks or see things through and finish them. So I think this provides the perfect model in the same sense that if our employees commit to this, there would have to be some incentive from them as well to say, look, I got to finish to get my $1,250 credit back from the city, and I paid $1,250 for my education. I mean, I think it's a win-win, especially when you look at in terms of the average college tuition per semester is upwards of $15,000 to $20,000. So, I mean, I think it's an extremely good thing. This can trickle down, down to families too.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I think it's a great program, and I think it's very reasonable. However, the problem is that many of our employees who would want to take advantage of this can't afford the upfront cost and to be reimbursed. And so this is the reason I'm asking the question.
Well, and that's where I think the federal financial aid, if, they can't afford the upfront initial cost, is that the federal financial aid would maybe kick in at that point. And that's one of the beauties of this program, because not any other program out there that's accredited has to the level of federal financial aid like this one does, where the cost is so low. If you look at University of Phoenix, who has an average graduation cost of about $80,000, federal financial aid will probably only pick up maybe 25% of that, and the rest would be student loan. So I think the model being $2,500 is an extremely attainable one, but at the same point, if it comes to that point where assistance is needed, apply for the federal financial aid.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments, questions?
Is it the same number of hours per degree, or does it vary depending on the degree that you pursue?
It'll vary depending on the degree that you pursue. So if you go for the associate's, obviously it's less amount of time, but if you go for the bachelor's degree, I think it institutes another 20 or 30 hours. It's not very much. Yeah. So it's a fast-paced program, and again, it's one of the few that's coming out that is actually based on competency-based and gives credit towards, somebody that's owned and operated or, been in a supervisor role their entire life, yet never really just possessed. They've worked themselves into it.
And that we do have. We have a lot of homegrown professionals, if you will.
Yeah.
That have learned the trade and learned what many, go for a master's in 6 years.
They've done
takes them
it
30 years, 25 years, 30 years, but they know the attributes that lead them to that path of success. So anything that we can do to help that educational process or embrace that, and I think it's just something that, that we should be looking into. Councilmember?
I guess just, Abigail brought it up. A question came to my mind, and that is, in the one-year program, or this $2,500, that's a year, yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the competency that they're talking about that they will either certify or degree? Do you know how many course hours or what that?
Well,
how
and
that's
that's kind
based?
of the
So I'm just trying to figure out what kind of a load it's going to be on the.
Well, that's kind of the beauty of it, is that there's no timeline to finish, and it's all personal based on competency, how far you can move along. So you start where everybody else starts, is at the beginning, and in talking with the recruiters from College for America, they've said they've had it's highly unlikely, but they've had individuals complete associate's and bachelor's degrees within 6 months, just because they're that far, in tune with how the program works, and they adapt to it extremely well. They estimate that the longest they've had students out is 3 years, but the average completion time is about a year per degree. So, I think a lot of it will depend on how fast they move themselves through the program. It's way less than what traditional schooling would.
So if it takes them 3 years, it's still $2,500.
Still $2,500.
Okay, that was my question basically.
Yeah. Yep.
Great. Councilmember Silva.
Mr. Mayor, so I have a question. I know in the past, I know of a couple of employees with the town that got some sort of help with the town. Did we have already some sort of policy or something in place that was able to make that happen? I know Kathy Connolly actually went, and I think she got some sort of reimbursements. So can you elaborate on that?
I think that was a town initiative where she got some reimbursements. It was something on promoting higher education. I'm not sure what the policy is on that. Someone that's wanting to go and expand on their education, what is the policy? Do we have one now in place?
We don't, Mr. Mayor. We, in the past, I think it was something that the town really encouraged and paid for or offered certain employees to get their degree on the town's dime. In the case of the previous PR director, it was something that she negotiated with the previous town managers, that she'd be allowed to receive or obtain a master's degree, and the town would pay a portion of that. I know that the council expressed a concern, saying that shortly thereafter, she took a position elsewhere. But I understand that legally, and Brian can shed some light on this, that we can't have or ask that the employee stay here or ensure that they honor that agreement.
Right.
That's right. Indentured servitude is no longer allowed.
Unless you're in the military.
The only reason I bring that up is because if we already have something in place, but if not, I fully agree with this concept. I think that it's something that we could offer our employees. As a matter of fact, if I would continue it, I'd probably enroll myself, but maybe I still can.
Well, and I think that's some of the beauty behind the program, is that, and I would echo it, and I would hope that the city take the lead on it and become the lead agency, because the buck doesn't just stop with us. We can roll this onto the county, we can roll this onto the hospital. Every organization that doesn't have, an educated workforce basically qualifies, but they need the organizations to make the commitment to College for America to promote it through their organization. And that's the one thing that, you know, I've wholeheartedly supported and said we will do, is that we will, if you give me the tools, I will, you know, preach it to as many people as I can.
Okay, Councilmember Beta.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilor Gonzalez. The College for America program, is it accredited?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It's an accredited college. It's a College for America was founded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the Department of Education. And what they did was they sought universities across the country as to who fit the model. And what it was that Southern New Hampshire University is the leading accredited college in the country for online education, above any other University of Phoenix or anybody else that's out there. So they leaned on Southern New Hampshire University to be the lead agency with this initiative, and encouraged other universities to fund the same model within their own communities. It's just nobody's been able to come to that agreement that says, yeah, we can do this. And I'm sure the grant from the Gates Foundation probably helps offset some of those fees. But at the same time, you look at what they stand to gain in enrollment across the country with this is huge in numbers.
And again, Mr. Mayor, the program is online, self-paced, which means depending on the individual and time and commitment, some folks are going to finish sooner than others. Others may not finish because they lose interest. That's fine. I think, as Councilor Peralta pointed out, the bigger challenge we have is funding and how we structure that. The fact that you introduced this to us tonight, I think that we ought to give direction to staff to continue to explore this, and maybe Councilmember Gonzalez, you could be a council rep with staff to further flesh it out and see if there's a way that we could implement such a program to the point where it's fair to every town employee equally across the board and doesn't help certain individuals. That way we're firm, fair, and consistent across the board.
Well, and that's where I would say, if there was a policy direction, that would say, okay, we'll fund 1/3 of it, that's across the board, regardless of who you are.
Right. And that's something that we have to still evaluate. What could it be?
Wait, what's the potential?
And would
what's the
that
cost?
work with our budget? And what would be the interest of the 175 town employees? All those factors have to be fleshed out. But I think it's an excellent program. It's definitely thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
Well, and I think what we have to do is, along those lines, is identify a budget and what are we going to allot and how do they qualify, some criteria as to, have they been here maybe a certain amount of time? Are they supervisors? Are they, I don't know what that will be. But I think there has to be some kind of criteria and some type of budget to see exactly where we're going to get it from. And that would be something that we can direct staff to evaluate.
And right, Mr. Mayor, and I think UNM-Taos plays a key role in this with FAFSA, financial aid, to see how we can bridge it all together and partner and implement a viable program.
And that's one of the greatest things about this is that, FAFSA, is the lead financial aid consulting agency for every university across America. But this, being that it's eligible is one of the biggest things. Being that it's accredited is another major endeavor because, it's something that hasn't been explored until probably the last 3 or 4 years in a competency-based program because it's always been traditional book and desk type university, brick and mortar. And the online university programs that are out there are still no different. In fact, if you read on them, they offer a higher deficiency rate because of the fact that it's the same amount of training that you would get out of conventional university, but it's truly on your own. So with regards to this, where the goal is success. And for them, I think the continued funding comes in their numbers. That, the more they graduate, probably the more successful the program becomes, the more they gain traction with it. And that's why every student's, assigned a personal student advisory coach that I guess kind of helps you along through that. You're able to, manage your progress online. And again, it's no different. The one thing I like about it, and there's many, but you're able to take the competency-based tests. If you don't pass it, you're able to retake and retake and retake and retake until you master the skill. You basically don't move forward until you get to that point. Unlike traditional colleges, you fail the course, you take it again, and you pay again. So it's an amazing program, and I think it would be well serviced and utilized. And I get the concept of employees getting educated and then they move on. I'm all for that. If we can educate our community, especially homegrown individuals that have been here their entire lives, give them the opportunity to put another notch on their belt and climb one more ladder, then I'm all for that.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Knief, do you have any comments? Would you like to come up and give us your 2 cents?
2 cents.
Or 4, whatever the case.
Yes, I'm not specifically familiar with this, but I know a little bit about the Gates Millennium Scholarship. For the 2nd year in a row, Carrie Trujillo, a Taos Pueblo lady, has won that, one of only 350 Native Americans in the United States. So I have a high regard for the Gates programs. One of the biggest problems we have as a community college is that we don't have what we still call traditional students that take a 2-year program and graduate in 2 years. We always look bad with those numbers, but it's obvious why that happens. It's not that people aren't incentivized. It's because they're taking classes and they're also working sometimes 2 and 3 jobs. Sometimes they're single parents. So to challenge them to graduate in a specific time is just not productive, but that's how the funding is doled out. So something like this, I think, is really exciting, and if Jim Gilroy likes it, it's probably good.
Thanks, Bill.
Great.
Thanks, Bill.
Sounds good. So is it direction to staff to evaluate it and come up with a plan on how we can implement and take advantage of this
Absolutely.
opportunity?
Thank you, Councilman.
Okay.
Yeah, I would ask, and just so that we move as expediently as possible on it. I mean, because it doesn't cost the city a dime. I mean, up front, if there's nothing that we have set in stone that says we will do reimbursement, if anything, it's just the opportunity to offer it to our community would be even bigger to me. I think if we can work on it in the meantime and say, look, if you complete it, you bring us that back, and we've set a policy, we'll definitely give that funding. But I think to open it up, immediately would be better than to wait.
So, Mr. Mayor, council members, just for clarification, is the intent for staff to put together a plan where we would include some type of reimbursement? Is there a certain percentage, or you want me to go ahead and evaluate that and just bring that back possibly at the next council meeting?
Well, I think look at the opportunities with UNM through some grants that are out there, and how can we mesh all that together, which may include reimbursements.
And Abigail, to answer your question more directly, maybe the recommendation would include some reimbursement, but maybe it wouldn't include any, but as the council member pointed out, at a minimum to sponsor the program and be part of it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Gonzalez. Okay. Next, we'll go to the last item. Consideration and possible approval to amend council legislative priorities to include special legislation allowing for local referendum, a short-term hospital gross receipts tax. Before we get to that, council members, I do have an issue that has been arising, and that is the Mary D. Medina building. There seems to be a miscommunication to individuals from La Serna Grant that we are, in fact, are intending to surrender the building to the state. And that's not what I heard from this council direction. I think the council direction was to explore the opportunity to allow them to use the building, and along with the veterans. And if the legislation that currently allowed, that the state gave the town the building, does not mesh into that use, to amend the legislation that would allow for that use. Is that what I understand from the legislation? I mean, from the direction to the council.
That was my intention, was so that, we exercised all opportunities, but it wasn't to relinquish anything, for somebody else.
And that's what I told them, and they weren't too happy with that initially. But I think that speaking to Carlos, Senator Cisneros' staff, I think what we need to do is send a letter requesting, since we do so many traditional municipal uses that are extraordinary or not ordinary, such as the use of the CAV building, the Ancianos building, TCA, would this, since it's a political subdivision, the land grants, fall into that as a extraordinary use or customary use, I guess is what the legislation has, and also to the veterans, would that fall under normal uses of normal municipal uses, since that's what we've engaged in? And if not, then we need to, if we get a no from the General Services Department, then
We got to know.
Okay, we got to know. Okay, so then we would need to. Okay, so then we would need to amend the legislation, and
Can't
Is-
do it this session.
Okay. Shall I at least request that our senator
Consider it for the next session.
consider it? Yeah, okay. Okay,
Because it doesn't have any money to.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because, Mr. Mayor, to relinquish the building back to the state right now, it's just going to get lost.
Yeah.
And then our VA folks won't benefit, our El Valle de los Ranchos will not benefit, so we got to mitigate our risk.
The total community doesn't benefit. It goes
Exactly.
back to the state.
So the intent is to change the legislation to still allow for the building to be used for the land grant?
For any purpose that the town determines necessary to meet your community needs.
Okay. Yeah, we could do that.
Or actually, what they should do is just give damn title and not have any.
Not have the
Yeah, why give me
restriction.
something that you're making me use for?
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I would, based on my conversation with the folks that make these decisions, I would strongly suggest that the language be as broad as humanly possible.
Yeah.
They take a very narrow reading,
Okay.
very narrow.
Okay, great. So the other issue is I've been speaking to Councilmember Silva that has attended the hospital task force that we have appointed. And because of that, I'm recommending that a couple of things, that we had asked staff to hire a consultant, a financial consultant, to analyze countywide bonds and to see if there's any excess revenues there, and if not, there's not. But I hear that the judicial complex is generating excess revenues, and can that be given to the hospital by vote if it goes to a referendum, that any excess revenues? And if it can't, well then we know that's an option that can't be done.
Let me answer that question for you. And the reason I'm shaking my head is because the language, and it's already the reason why that they're only using the excess money for the command center. It can't be moved from that facility. Secondly, it's all capital improvement monies. It can't be used for operations.
Sure.
Okay. So you can't use that one. Now, do they have other gross receipts tax revenues out there that they could use for that? I can't answer that question. But for the most part, the monies that are being used for the command center and other capital uses are restricted to capital uses.
Sure.
Now, that being said, there's two opportunities here. One is the enacting of a new special gross receipts tax for the hospital.
Sure.
And the other is to both these would be by referendum, but the other one is a referendum to use the hospital mill levy, millage that is available. But that's also by referendum, I think, but I couldn't find in the statutes how that 3 mil levy for hospital purposes is enacted. I couldn't even find it. It's in there someplace,
Sure.
but I couldn't find it today.
Well, and I think that's what I'm looking at, is trying to look for viable options. The county did decline and voted no when the hospital board went to them for a possible property tax referendum to the voters, therefore tying the hospital's hands. So this is an effort to look at our options and getting a consultant to evaluate those, to see what our options are. Is there some capacity in the mill levies? Is there options? And what if we go to for a local referendum on a gross receipts tax, or perhaps we may need a property tax and gross receipts tax that's specifically dedicated to support hospitals. This is not something that's only affecting Taos. This is a statewide issue. Now, that we have a governor that has adamantly opposed any tax increase, but what is the option? The option that we're facing right now is we don't want this hospital to turn into a transfer station, which I hear the helicopter all the time.
Every day.
And I hear nightmare stories about what's going on. So
Yeah,
we as a community,
John, get the overhead.
we as a community need to think about how we're going to take care of our hospital. It's a crucial and vital component to the health and welfare of our community, not to mention the economy. So I think sitting back and doing nothing is not an option. I think that we need to preserve that right through legislation. I'm one that's always against taxes, but I can tell you right now, if it means saving our hospital, just like we saved our schools, just like we built a judicial complex, I think the time has come where we need to take care of ourselves. So, I would recommend that the council allow us to get a financial consultant to evaluate all the possibilities, and also to include us going to our senator and representative to introduce the possibility to allow a local option to support specifically our hospital.
And Mr. Mayor, I would further that by saying that this should be done in collaboration with Taos County.
Absolutely.
And absolutely, it can't be done without
So
them.
we mesh it together and it's
Yeah.
more comprehensive.
It can't be done without them, and I did meet while I was at the legislature with the Enchanted Circle mayors, and they're very, very concerned, of course, for their communities, because this is the hub of healthcare for them. And they're very supportive of this idea, but also keep in mind that we need to also, if this is kind of, if you will, putting the cart before the horse, I guess you can say in a certain sense, because we need to identify also what does that mean, taxpayers now supporting a private entity, and what does that mean moving forward as far as contracting for services, if a certain amount is dedicated to the hospital. I think there's going to be more accountability as to what's going on with their finances. A lot of that stuff has to come into consideration. So these are preliminary talks, nothing set in stone, but we do need to preserve the right to go to a local referendum. All the mayors appear to be on board. I have asked staff to schedule a meeting with all the mayors of the Enchanted Circle, the county commission chair, and the school district leaders, along with the hospital leaders, of course, to come together and see how we're going to make this happen.
Mr. Mayor, in addition to everything you just said, I think it's important to not lose sight and focus of maybe initiating and creating a hospital district. And the reason I say that is because this hospital services Angel Fire and Eagle Nest and even beyond. So that way we can go ahead and be able to recoup some, whether it be GRTs or property taxes, maybe in those areas as well.
Sure, absolutely. Any comments?
Yeah, I do have some comments. I think what we need to do at this particular point in time is send a request, a formal request to the county commission to consider supporting this now, and then we can move forward. The problem is right now is if we don't get their approval, this is a property tax, or this is a county-wide tax, and if they don't say yes to this thing, we're not going to get any hold of anybody. Now, they shouldn't say no, but I think that it needs to be a formal request to them to consider this option. And this is part of the discussion we had last night. We talked about it, and part of the problem we were having last night, and I got fairly angry at the hospital staff, and they finally answered my questions, but they were refusing to give us an idea as to how much of the money they needed. And so I told them very distinctly, I said, if you don't tell me how much you need, I don't know what to ask for. What is the county going to ask for as far as how much it needs to support this hospital if you don't tell me what your shortfall is? And so they finally said they would do that, but I haven't seen anything yet, by the way. And I've already drafted the legislation, by the way. But I can't do anything either without the county saying, yes, we will do this. If you want this done in this legislative session, the county has to come and say this thing. Now, here's something else. Because we only have about 10 days left in which to introduce legislation. But we have to have their signing on to this, because they can sabotage it by just going into the legislature and saying, we didn't agree to this, and that's the end of it. And that's not best for our community nor for our hospital. But the second thing that was brought up by Blankenhorn last night is there is a proposal being made to the legislature, supposedly, that would take all of the current indigent fund tax, and that's 1/8 of a cent. Put it into a pot and match that with federal and state funds, and then distribute it back according to need. If that was to happen the way the proposal was presented last night, it would be what the hospital needs to survive. However, the big losers in this are the big counties. Bernalillo County, San Juan County, and probably Lee County. And so if you look at not the support, but who has control of the legislature, you just named the 3 counties. And so I don't think they're going to agree to this sort of a robbing of their funding to pay for other little locations like ours. So at best, I think what we're going to come out with is what we've had before, which is a 3-to-1 match. If that's the case, then we need another 1/8 of a cent tax to be matched 3-to-1. In other words, you put it back into the pot. And my concern is whether or not we can get it into the pot, because of the way they may be structuring this. And why I'm saying all of this way is because I can't find that bill has been introduced that they were talking about last night. I looked all over everywhere for it, and I can't find it. And so I've asked the Municipal League to help me look for it and see if they can find it. And I should know something probably like tomorrow.
Who mentioned that it was a bill, Blankenhorn?
Yeah, and this is a bill that's being put together by the Human Services and Health Department, departments in the state of New Mexico, in trying to meet the requirements of the federal funding for matching funds. The Fed said that they won't allow the match as it was going on before with the county, that they would put up the money and then match it directly. They want it pooled. So you can't put too much money in it to be pooled if you're not going to get it back. So that's where the concern is, that they're saying everybody has to put in an 1/8, but not every county has an 1/8 in place. Some only have a 16th in place. So there's some issues there that they have to iron out. Something is going to come out of this legislative session to help the hospitals, because they can't afford to lose that matching grant from the feds. But at this point in time, I really don't know where they're at on their negotiations. I don't know where it's at to come into the legislature. But hopefully we'll know a little bit more. But from talking to Tom Blankenhorn last night, one of the things he said is that the Association of Counties is not interested in any local options or supporting any local options like we're talking about for Taos County. The issues that we would look at if we were to get an option like this, if you vote on it, it has to be 90 days before it's implemented. So the earliest that we could see funding on this would probably be the first of the year, on a gross receipts tax. If you did the option on mill levy, I'm not sure how that works, but it could be almost 2 years away, simply because when you send out your proposed millage bill for the coming year, it's done in April, and so you would have to have that in place before April, I think, but I'm not sure because I can't find the damn legislation to help me yet. So, but that could be a possibility that you would really be down the road if you tried to use property tax rather than gross receipts. Gross receipts is still the fastest way to do it if we could do it.
Well, I think that's what I want from the council. We can explore the options, understanding that there may be some resistance of the county. I think time is of the essence. We're winding down 10 days. I want to try to get this meeting with all the leaders of the Enchanted Circle. The only way that this is going to work is if everyone buys into it. And it's an option, and if it's not a reality, well, we can't say we didn't try. So I would like to explore these options and work closely with your understanding with legislation that is out there, so that we can find some options on how we're going to work this issue.
Mr. Mayor, like I said, Mr. Mayor, I think that we really need to approach the county commission. First, with the idea that the chairman of the county commission come together with the mayors to to work out the details.
Well, that's specifically what my meeting will be for with the county commission chair, because to get a quorum, I think time's of the essence. So meeting with the commission chair to hear directly from all the mayors, from everyone of the urgency of this, the school districts. I mean, this is so important to the school districts as well. So.
And Mr. Mayor, I do agree with Councilman Peralta, and obviously you recognize that as well. And I think that the message that needs to be conveyed is that this is just to preserve that option if in the event that, we need to go that route. And I don't see how the county could say no to that.
Yeah, if we find out something adverse or something that's an issue with the actual implementation of it, that option is there. We don't have to execute it.
Well, especially if this other legislation that has been put together by Human Services, if it goes nowhere, then where are we? All we're wanting to do is to go to the state and just let them know all we want is the opportunity and the option to help ourselves.
Well, the only problem is that here's the issue. One of the issues is that if my figures are correct, 1 mil would generate about $700,000. 3 mills generate about $2.1 million. A half a cent gross receipts tax only generates $1.5 million. If we don't have the federal match, it doesn't work. Okay? So we can't generate enough money to make up the shortfall in taxation that we have available to us that is reasonable without the match. So the state has to preserve that match in order for all of us to be, and I'm just talking about ours, so everybody else out there is going to be in the same boat that we are if that match is not preserved by the state. We're all going to be really in big trouble because there's no way that we can do it on our own. And I just need to make that sure, because if we can get the match, we can do it with 1/8 of a cent. If we don't get the match, we just don't have that power.
And that's what I think we need to know from the hospital is what is their true shortfall. And we don't know that. So
and in all fairness to the hospital, I think that they've got so many moving targets, but they were going to be getting something together. And so, Councilman, you said that as of today they didn't get anything to you.
No, and I mentioned to them, time is of the essence. We don't have that much time to do something. And so, my anticipation is that 1/8 of a cent will do it if we get the match. If we don't, or if their figures are much higher than what they were telling me last night, or the combination of the funding sources they have is different from what they were talking about, it could change the whole parameters.
And even if we do get the match, they still may have a shortfall, and that might be the reason why we need to have this local option as well.
And even if everything's all falls in place, the voters still may say no.
That's right.
But this is just an option that allows us to take care of ourselves by means of this local option here. So.
Well, I can tell you that this local option that we're talking about here has a lot more possibility of succeeding than the property tax does.
Sure.
That's for sure.
Oh, yeah, property taxes. Okay. Is it okay if I pursue in that manner?
Please do, Mayor.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Possible approval. Those were the two items. If we can consolidate those, as I explained, in form of a motion, entertain a motion accordingly. Those are the two items that that was the land grant and the pursuing.
And do each one of them independently?
You can, or you can, since we discussed them both, we can do one, do them both. I believe we can do them both. It's direction anyway, so.
If we can, then so move to approve to move in that direction.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we will go to anything else from the mayor and council under matters?
Mr. Mayor, I'm just extremely excited and psyched with the opportunity for this College for America. I think it'll
I do have one other thing.
Okay.
make a huge, huge impact with regards to not only our workforce, but maybe with employee morale too. So thank you for the opportunity to bring this to you guys.
Great. Can we?
This is a legislative matter that I need to bring to your attention.
Okay.
After speaking with the Municipal League office today, and there's 4 bills have been introduced on the hold harmless. House Bill 132 is the one you need to look at. That seems to be the one that the Municipal League is going to be supporting. I don't know that it's going to be end up the way that it is right now, but that seems to be the one that has the most support from the Municipal League. And what that does is it holds harmless if you're under 10,000 population or under 48,000 for a county. You would get your hold harmless but that's only for 15 years, and it phases out in 15 years. And after 15 years, you will be able to, or within that 15 years, you can start imposing a gross receipts tax to make up for the loss. And for municipalities, it's up to 3/8% increments of 1/8. If you're a county, it's I'm trying to remember what the county gets. They get 1/8. It's 1/8, and they can implement it in 16ths. So they only get 2 shots at it. We get 3, and you can only go up to what your loss is. So if your loss is less than that, you can't implement anything. So that's what they're looking at. It's a little difficult to understand in some ways, but we're basically looking at some point in time as a tax increase to make up for the food and medical tax relief.
So have they not, Councilor, Mr. Mayor, have they not instituted anything that would, I guess, relieve the smaller municipalities, smaller communities that, I mean, because in all reality, Taos, being one of those smaller municipalities, stands probably the most to take the hardest hit from the hold harmless. Once it comes full force, there's no chance of, I guess, it becoming an optional. I mean, they're right now, it just sounds like they're playing around with ideas with regards to the amount of time, the amount of incrementation and how it works. But I mean, do you foresee anything that would come legislatively that would remove it from small, because they're going to hurt us? I mean, hold harmless is going to kill us.
Right now, you're going to continue with your hold harmless because of your size. But the way it's written, the way I read it today was that in 15 years, you're going to lose that. So you can take the hit in 15 years totally, or you can
take it incrementally now.
You can do it gradually. And if you do it gradually, you can do it in 8ths, impose 8ths, and it doesn't have to be by referendum. Now, still a tax increase. So
that still put us well above the 8.18.
You're going to still play that imposing the tax issues.
Okay. Yeah, it's going to be a moving target. I mean, I think that by the time the bill gets to its final destination, by the time Republicans and Democrats alike get a hold of it, it's going to be a whole different game. So
I don't see it changing very much, because this is in line with what the Municipal League approved as its legislative proposal. There's a few little changes in there from what they had, but it's pretty much the same thing. That's why I asked which one they're going to be looking at.
Well, and the reason I guess I ask with regards to anything else coming up is that my understanding is that the state of New Mexico sued Doña Ana County for implementation of the tax that the state said was okay to impose. So, I mean, where is that going to come? Because they're saying that that Doña Ana is just getting rich off the tax by implementing it this soon.
Yeah, I didn't talk about that part, but this bill says if you impose the tax, you basically have to pay it back by de-imposing the tax. And you can't impose anything until everything becomes neutralized. So I understand what you're saying, but I'm just saying that's what it says. So there's going to be some playing with that, but they're serious about it.
Right. Anything else?
Sleep on that.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Good night, everyone. Thank you for being here.